Can we start? Scott just gave me the word there, folks, so I'm going to get going. So apologies for the slight delay this morning, folks, and you're all very welcome to the Limerick campus here of Dell Technologies. It's a huge pleasure to have you all here. My name is John Page. I'm the director of the Customer Solution Centre here in Dell, and it's wonderful really here in the post-COVID world to work with so many people gathering together in such an interesting topic and to help launch in conjunction with the HSE and with UL and the Transformation Masters and the Digital Forum, okay, which we begin broadcasting in fact this afternoon. So, and I think, if I was to look at the agenda, I'm in Dell 21 years, and we've gone through many changes, many iterations, many changes of colour, if you like, and the key word is transformation. And that's, as well as being what today is about, it's what this campus has done here in Limerick. There's two things. There's one or two I know in the audience have heard me say this many times before, so apologies for repeating myself. So I'm going to assume you haven't heard me say this before, but as a long-term employee of Dell, there are two things that drive me nuts, right? The first is that Dell only makes PCs. Okay, yes, we do make PCs, we make them better than anybody, we believe, but it's part of our business. It's part of our approach, it's part of our solutions, and it's part of our contribution, if you like, to industry, to public service, to healthcare. If you look at Michael Dell's mission is to enable human progress through technology. He's got a very specific call out within healthcare to touch 1 billion lives by 2030 in some shape or form through Dell's technologies. And we're doing that every day. People arriving at my stage in life are seeing the insides of hospitals more and more, unfortunately. And I had a lovely chat with an edic there a couple of weeks ago who was showing me a particular machine, the tender nurses of which I was undergoing, and she was asking what I did. And I explained, Dell Technologies, what I did, where our Customer Solution Centre did. And she said, and I used our healthcare business as a good example. I said, this fancy CAT scanner that I'm being submitted to, you can be sure that there's a lot of computing power sitting there somewhere, rendering the images, generating the images, turning all the electrons, protons, neutrons into information that are made diagnosed. And she looked at me and said, are you talking about this thing? And she pointed to a big white wardrobe in the corner that she had no knowledge about, no notion about, and no interest in, quite rightly. But that's Dell's job. And I felt very proud of that moment, because I knew that white wardrobe was stuffed from top to bottom with Dell componentry that our OEM business had contributed to bringing to market. And that's, it's almost like it's a great example of transformation of Dell, the transformation of Limerick, if you like. I said there was two things that drive me nuts. The first thing is PCs. The second thing, for those of you from outside Limerick, I would challenge anyone to walk down the main street of Limerick, just for kicks, ask for directions to Dell. Every second person would look at you like you have three heads and tell you, what are you saying? Dell is gone. So there are 900 people working for Dell in Limerick who remain one of the largest employers in the Midwest, and they remain relevant and remain central through transformation. And the word transformation appears in the agenda so often. Limerick is a manufacturing centre, the Midwest is a manufacturing centre. Timber, Higgins, flour, PCs. Okay? Give a very short potted history. There's a lovely anti-transformation story that I love to tell about the timber works at the docks in Limerick, where one of the functions, one of the teams, going back a generation, if not two generations, their role was to take the timber logs coming off the boats and to sort them into piles of equal size. And this is a team that had to transform the day that the cargo arrived with the timber piles all pre-sorted. So this caused complete consternation. And you had a team, in a way, that had to transform. What are we going to do here? And from the point of view, I guess, of the Midwest, we've transformed, we've gone up the value chain, if you like. We have not left manufacturing behind. Dell Technologies have a massive manufacturing presence in Cork. All of our higher-end higher-end storage units come out of that factory and ovens. So we have absolutely not left that behind. But it has transformed. It has changed. The team of dockers in Limerick that day, maybe 60, 70 years ago, their ingenious solution was to untie all the bundles of logs, toss them around the place, and then sort them. So in a way, that's, let's call it short-lived transformation, but what we're talking about here is real enduring transformation. Okay? And I'm going to hand over to Martin in a moment to take it through, getting into more detail on the agenda. But really, for me, it's just fantastic to have a forum like this, to be seeing people coming together to discuss, Dell's role, if you like, in these solutions, and to explain to you that we do so much more than PCs, and that we still like to keep getting them. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everybody. It's good to be back as well. Yeah, with lots of people online. I'm so thrilled that we're here today. This is a group of people that actually want to fix genuine fix Irish healthcare and actually have all the tools and tricks, and we're actually going to do it. I'm going to share some data with you, which will I'm delighted to see Ronnie here. Ronnie is one of the unspoken heroes. We'll talk about him in a second. I was in Austria on Monday with someone at clinical college who were working with the Austrian Health Agency in Siemens. And all we agreed, they were shocked at how bad our healthcare is. They are so far ahead with their e-health infrastructure. But the biggest accomplishment we guys are so far ahead actually on the digital applications. And that's a real sort of endorsement of what we're doing. So this is our Digital Academy Forum. It's convened by the Irish Digital Health Leadership Steering Group. It's supported by HSE Digital Transformation. It's supported by Limerick University, by UL organizations. And the Irish Digital Health Leadership Group is a new form of citizen-led leadership. There's no question our system has failed in terms of the healthcare system that we currently have. So this is a group of leaders that have come together, that are working every month. They're leading academics, they're leading CEOs, most particularly leading clinicians, they're leading politicians. And we're working together to drive change. This should be a huge asset to the HSE, and many clinicians in the HSE is a huge asset. But actually, the top brass in the HSE are having to have a really hard think about David Mitchell who disappeared. And they're not scared of me, they're not scared of Eileen, but they're very scared of us. So genuinely, we have to drive a revolution. Michael Collins, 100 years ago, failed abroad, was shot by a trader. So I'm very much a Michael Collins fan, but I do like something really that Lara said. Because I am straight, I'm crookedness head on. If I use crookedness to mean crookedness here, I'm going. The truth will stand on its own, no matter from what angle it's attacked. And right now, we are under attack. And I'll tell you why. We're really pleased. We actually have the media on our side. So today, I hope you're buying National Independent. We've been working very closely with Media Planet. And it was a really nice supplement on digital transformation and the work that we're collectively doing. And the first step to any transformation doing is awareness. So the media are working with us to actually educate people on what we can do, actually how our system is, how unacceptable it is. So please buy that. Our core message is stay left, shift left. In terms of governance, what you really need to be able to have your top executives, your chair people, chairperson with it, what the strategy is. So I'm going to ask Colin to roll a short video. It's 90 seconds that our chairman reported for us earlier this year. So Colin, if we can roll that, please.
Sorry, folks, we're still having some audio issues.
So really important message, so we're going to wait So any requests?
I can sing a little bit. I can dance. So I'll tell you a joke actually. So I was lying in my bed last week and I was looking up at the stars and I thought, where the hell's my roof? Can you get it? This would go out on the internet, so please bear with us. Folks, this is very important that you see this video. It shows we really need resilient systems. We can't have the digital systems right at the bedside, and all of a sudden, the vital signs monitors go down. So one of the most important things is around resilience. By the way, we have such a fantastic lineup. We're going to announce in New York on next Monday the top 25 digital health destinations. And we are going to announce top 5 digital health CEOs. And I have to say, so I'm going to flash it on the screen on Monday, but actually first time down on the top digital health CEOs is Eileen Byrne. The only area of Ireland actually excels or at the same level of peers in digital is actually the GP system. So every time we go to the doctor has all their information that it sounds like already mentioned. So Eileen actually has a product which is fantastic. That is the first stage of a new kind of engagement with patients. I'm so thrilled that John here. John is the CEO general manager of Dell. And from a standing start, we have grown to 130 people in AI, and are actually completely changing the way development and healthcare is thinking about healthcare. And John will briefly talk about moving from health insurance to health assurance. This is a lot of awareness. I'm So pleased to have President Kerstin Mey and Annette McElligott, who are the main sponsors of our Masters in Digital Health Transformation. We're now launching sort of the 4th season. And we have, unfortunately, we're in a little bit of a guerrilla warfare. We're about to mobilize these forces, clinicians, doctors, physios, pharmacists. We have about 100 people in this community. On December 9th, we're bringing that community together to Limerick. We're actually going to mobilize and actually really take the next step forward in the digital transformation in Ireland. During my introduction, 2 special guests. Conor Leonard is the CEO of the Royal Hospital in Donnybrook. What an amazing thing they have done. With Amy Stack, who's the CEO of Stack Pharmacies. Next week, we have Malarkey. He's the director of the Business Administration Program at the University of South Florida. He has some remarkable insights about digital, saying everything's digital is really hard, but it's hard, but not as hard as we think it is. Everyone thinks we need huge amounts of capital, huge amounts of time. And Conor's actually going to demonstrate what has been done in the Royal Hospital in just a month. And now this technology, meeting with Lucy Nugent this afternoon, Katie Stack and her team, DigiCare, are actually taking it to tell us. So today we have about 3 million medication errors per day or per year. So that's 1 medication error per patient per day. That's not really acceptable. In the US, the 3rd largest cause of death is from medication errors, medical misadventure. The suavest guy you're going to meet today here actually is Ryan Heynes. And Ryan and I put together an idea, a year and a half ago about a diploma that healthcare was moving so fast that we actually needed to produce a curriculum that actually stayed with the pace of the industry. It's such a pleasure to partner with Ryan, and he's a fantastic host. And Ryan's just been recording the new material, which actually launches this afternoon. And when we talked initially, we set the expectation maybe 250 people, but for the first series, we had, I think, around 1,500 people register, 1,500 clinicians, and they're becoming part of our task force. We worked very closely with Brian O'Connor from the ECH Alliance, and with Rachel Brammer here with an announcement by Connected Health, an investment that they're making. Ireland is very aligned with Stay Left. Really pleased to have Deryck Mitchelson. Like we saw these issues with resilience here. cybersecurity is absolutely critical. Checkpoint are one of the world leaders, and we have a really exciting announcement today with the HSE Digital Academy that we're partnering with Checkpoint to make their cybersecurity training available to every HSE employee. And Deryck is going to be with us in New York. Alan Higgins is here from Ingenium. Everybody knows UHL is the hotspot. It has got the highest trolley counts, lots of issues, and Ingenium are doing some fantastic work. One of the things I've been talking about is that healthcare is about a decade behind other industries in digitalizing. But what's less well known is healthcare is about 30 years behind in terms of applying manufacturing science to healthcare. Probably the biggest issue in healthcare that I can think of is variability. The work that Alan and his team are doing are going to help with that. So can I just check, Colin, are we ready to roll? Will I keep going and will we come back to this? Okay, it's really important we see this, but we'll come back to it. So awareness is like the sun. When it shines on things, they're transformed. And the first step on our journey is the awareness and the education. What we do when we come together, this is like an intellectual super collider. And everybody here actually cares about transforming this system. And that's why, I have such hope because we absolutely need to transform our mindset and our posture. Our posture towards healthcare has been information suppression. I met Stephen McMahon. He's the CEO of the Irish Patient Association. We had a coffee last week, horrified with what he told me. And he actually unearthed that the HSE tried to suppress a report around hospital safety. And thankfully, Robert Watts stepped forward and said, well, actually, no, we're going to publish that. And it's in all of us, everybody's interest that we move from information suppression to information superiority. One of the key things that we can do is apply principles of network-centric warfare to network-centric healthcare. Stay left, shift left, I don't want to get too grandiose, is actually a new doctrine. And a doctrine is a way of actually fighting a war, or it's a political philosophy. And Truman in the US is the guy that kind of invented that. And we've identified 10 principles how we're going to fight this war. Why is it a war? Well, it's a war because 70% of deaths come from preventable chronic disease. 90% of cost in the US system comes from chronic disease. This is preventable. So what we've been doing hasn't been working. So we actually need to go on to a war footing against disease, not against people, but against disease to win this. Professor Mey is going to talk about the Masters in Digital Health Transformation, but we are about to mobilize these resources to drive wide-scale digital transformation. So pleased to have John here, so pleased to have Eileen, and we're really proud. Eileen is a member of our digital health leadership steering group to have the top digital health SME in the company working with us and driving this stay left, shift left strategy. It's fantastic. So thank you, Eileen. So back to dogmas, Lincoln. The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. So does anybody know what plus 19 is? So that's actually the average number of extra patients that Wexford General Hospital is running with every day. And we're just through midsummer. So Wexford Hospital, Linda O'Leary, fabulous CEO, but they are full. They normally don't see this kind of activity until, December and January. So we have a bit of a crisis. Our trolley count as of Saturday is 96% higher than it was, it's this day a year ago. So we have a very significant problem. We have lots of attrition, people, clinicians that are burnt out. So we have a problem, but we actually have a solution. Stay left, shift left, 10X is a mindset, it's a doctrine, and there's a bunch of solutions. So I'm an innovation professor, so I get to roll out this slide, and this talks about disruptive innovation. So Clay Christensen, he was the inventor of that, wrote a couple of fabulous books. I actually took a class with him in Harvard, and I actually had the opportunity to put my hand up. Excuse me, Professor Kristen, well, what about this? Had you not thought of that? He said, oh yeah, actually I'll modify the case the next time. But when you bring in a new solution or a new firm, you start, there's very weak signals. You have to have a bit of courage, do stuff, but we're now at a point where we're ready actually to scale dramatically. But you normally face resistance. But what we collectively, not me, us, we have faced extreme resistance, like resistance that is far beyond what would be reasonably expected. I'm really optimistic. Robert Watt has come in. He's got a great reputation. He's taken some time to read into his portfolio, but I'm very hopeful he's going to be an inspirational leader for our health service. Responsibility, we were with Siemens, as I said on Monday, Bernd Montage, so we're also responsible for what we do not do. The Hippocratic Oath is do no harm, but it has been interpreted, if you look at the results, as do nothing. So probably we all know what that stands for. Carlsberg, the best beer in the year, but we're probably the worst healthcare system in the Northern Hemisphere. And we need, this is the awareness, like, we're all professional people. We're all hopefully successful. We've all got families or friends or relatives. This isn't acceptable. So we have the 12th most prosperous country in the world. We're actually number 80 in the ranking. Denmark is the most prosperous country and it's number 3 in healthcare. So Ireland is at the bottom, but look who's ahead of us: Iran, Serbia, Algeria, Albania, Kenya, Dominican Republic, all have better healthcare systems. And we graduate the most amount of medical doctors per head of capita in Europe. We have the least amount of those doctors actually stay. They all go abroad. I know the UCD class, a third of them went to Perth 2 years ago. So we have a problem. We're paddy last. We have the highest rate of respiratory admissions in Europe, despite having the cleanest air. We have an 18-month waiting list for echo tests. So how many of those patients will actually die? Because that is the consequence. I'm not even going to give you them. The IDHS LSG has done an extrapolation from the amount of patients that are documented died in the UK on waiting list in Ireland, but it's equivalent to the crashing of an A380 every month. Patients that are dying on our waiting list. We're currently 2 billion overspent, so this is significant. We launched a 380 million action plan, and you would expect actually the numbers to go down. They're actually going up. So, Peter Drucker said, the worst thing you can do when you're flying into turbulence is not the turbulence itself. It's actually using the old logic. We together actually have the right answers, and we need to convince our politicians and the leaders to go with us. We have the highest acute occupancy in Europe. We're a seriously bad outlier. I was speaking to the Dublin Economic Forum in Wexford. I shared this. Austria and Denmark spend almost the same amount as we do per head of population. They're number 1 and number 4. We're number 80. So we have a problem. So shift left, stay left, 10x. This is the Irish Digital Health Leadership Steering Group. It also is the HSE board strategy. And, Colin, I hope we have a fix there. This is the leadership steering group. What we're doing actually is new. It's novel. It actually can be threatening to people. It's actually what Harvard are saying. This is the way you fix healthcare. You fix sustainability. And we're working closely. We actually have 2 or 3 case studies of what we're doing in Ireland. Hopefully will be published in the world's top journals over the next year or so. This is the future of Irish healthcare. This is from Carlo. We're going to have the Halo Care team in New York on Monday, demonstrating the words. But here we're looking at real-time vital signs from patients across Ireland, and we're detecting falls in real time. So we are genuinely going to build a 10 times better health system. We actually can do it. Our vice chair for pharmacy and in Blanchardstown, I won't say his name, he's now moving. So he said we can do this. In fact, we absolutely must do it. So here's actually a mixture. Some of the companies that are in the first 25, we're really proud of them. We're going to announce the first 25. We also have a watch list, so you won't know from this who's on which list, but here are the top 25 CEOs, and these are absolutely amazing people. People that have brilliant capabilities, but are transcending their day roles and working with us to transform Irish healthcare. So this one I'd like to bring up Conor Leonard, and Conor's going to talk about what's been happening in the Royal Hospital in Donnybrook, and it's really amazing. 10x, not just about 10x faster, 10x cheaper, it's about 10x faster deployment. So Conor, we've a couple of slides, and we look forward to, this is proof of what can be done.
Thank you very much indeed. Good morning, everybody. I'm not going to sing or dance unlike Martin. So I'm Conor Leonard. I'm the CEO of the Royal Hospital Donnybrook, which is a small 160-bed voluntary hospital just not too far from the city centre in Dublin. And most of our patients come from St. Vincent's University Hospital. 95% of our rehabilitation admissions come through there. And we have, in May of this year, we had a serious problem emerging within our pharmacy services. We had a loss of quality, and we had an increase in costs, and we had to take a quick decision as well. We reached out through the system, and we identified a company called Stacks, and 80 Stacks is with us here today. And from that, we actually decided that we had to change provider. And after changing provider, we realized our systems were just not compatible, and we actually had then to introduce a new pharmacy system. And we did that in the space of about 5 weeks across the entire hospital. So it took a huge amount of effort from the team that were all involved: nursing, executive management, the medical director, Stacks, meeting on a weekly basis, making these decisions and getting the system out, getting staff trained, introducing it across all the wards, putting the new structures, and actually then going live within about a 4-week period as well. It's early days yet, but so far, so good. Everything seems to be working. There's always tweaks, there's always things to fix. But I just want to give some of the 10x benefits that we have seen. So I just checked with the teams yesterday. I just asked what they felt were the high points of this one as well. So our doctors love it. It eliminates manual transcription. I'm a 30-year veteran of the health services, and the two most complex things I've ever come across are medication and staff rostering. Medication for docs, huge opportunity for errors in terms of when you're manually transcribing, writing down the details of prescriptions from one chart to another. Now gone. It's eliminating errors. The second thing they love is it makes data visible and available. They can actually do their studies, they can do their research, and it's so important to the medical team. From the third thing they really like about it, it gives nudges and alerts. So it's driving good practice. So when docs go to prescribe, they now get alerts. They're asked, pointed towards the right drug. If they're going to change something, they're asked to justify it as well in a very easy way that doesn't make their job more difficult, but actually makes them think. And from that way, it gives nudges to better practice, in particular in the use of antibiotics, which is so important in a hospital environment. And lastly, the other benefit they really like that they can use on occasion, if they know the patient, they know the nurse well, they can change prescriptions from their phone, from home, without having to come in. They can do that remotely when they're on call. Huge advantage. The nurses love it. Drug runs take a lot of time. They've gone down from 6 a day to 4 a day per wards, releasing nurse time as well. But the point they flagged yesterday was actually about communication. It makes the information on the patients available. It's notes about what the patient's preferences are, notes about variations. It's readily accessible. They can understand it, and it just makes life a lot easier. It makes data visible. They can do the reporting, they can actually do their audits much more easily. Nursing management love it. They can have much better oversight. They can sit at their desktops and review the progress of medication runs that are happening across the hospital and see how long they're taking. It helps them with their audits, and it helps them with their HICRA compliance. They can produce reports that are needed at the touch of a button. Huge transformation. And the final grouping, of course, is finance. Finance has much better visibility of patient ordering and also ward stock ordering, which was previously took huge trawls through paper to try and work out what was going on. They'd love it more when the cost savings start coming through, but we expect to get that in due course as well. But it's certainly been a huge step forward and a huge transformation for the hospital. So it's just a small example of one project in one place. Thank you very much, Martin.
That's fabulous. And Conor, thanks for coming down. And I think that is leadership in action. So I walked around the hospital with Conor. We were talking to the doctors and nurses. You know, a couple of things struck me. One of the doctors that actually had to learn to write with the other hand. because he had severe carpal tunnel syndrome. But Connor spoke to, he knew everybody's name, and they all said, "Hello, Connor." I said, "How are you doing?" You know, actually leadership and action. And while we were in Connor's office, actually, he had to step away to actually fix an IT problem. So, you know, when they have the CEO doing digital, it's amazing. So thank you, Connor. Thanks, Adi. So what's been done in the Royal Hospital, we're moving to Tala, and we're meeting with Lucy this afternoon to discuss that. So hopefully now we can cue Sir Kieran Devan, and this is important.
Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, we're at the cusp of a dramatic leap forward for the Irish health system. For the first time, we've got the whole health system, clinicians, patients, the academics, state agencies, all aligned behind this idea of stay left, shift left.
Okay, maybe we'll keep going.
Stay left, shift left. Your ideas and principles of fluent care.
Oh, video program is fully remote.
We have worked together with some colleagues to actually drive the biggest transformation on a hospital floor in the last 30 years. And, you know, Ronnie lives in Monaghan, but Cavan has been the epicenter of a very significant change in what we're doing. And one of the things we'll talk about in New York next week is the returns. We're seeing a really predictable pattern where we're seeing 10x returns, and we've worked on a very detailed business case of the internal rate of return of this vital signs automation solution, and it's 1100%. I have never seen, I've written a book on IT business cases, you know, had one of my team write another book. We've never seen a IT business case with that level of return. A lot of business cases are negative, like PPARs was 5,000%. You know, typically you might see 30% return, 40% return. The best project I ever saw was 255%, but 1100% is a massive return. Tala are very much an early adopter. We actually won some money from Deeper. We couldn't get it from the HSE. We went to Galway, the Savita Halapanar. The hospital said we didn't want it, and Lucy said, "I'll take it." And it's now implemented in Tala. So I want to invite up Niamh O'Leary, who's actually running, is the project manager for Vital Signs Automation, to just talk us through what's going on and where we currently are. So Niamh, great we haven't met face to face. Lovely to meet you. The microphone is here.
And thanks very much for the opportunity to present the Digital iNews project, which is a multidisciplinary patient-centric project supported by acute hospitals, national medical devices, and e-health and disruptive technologies. And some of my colleagues are here today. Okay, so I'm going to go to a very brief overview of where we are, where we need to go. Okay. So we have currently an iNews digital chart, a paper chart based in hospitals, as you can see, where patients, kind of deteriorating patients, high-risk patients within a hospital environment can be identified that they are basically deteriorating, getting more unwell, becoming more unwell, and they have an escalation protocol then that allows clinicians to identify best patient care for these patients. Currently, as you can see, it's paper-based. So like with all paper-based, it does have the trials and tribulations of handwriting, trying to figure out, you know, people's handwriting. And anybody who's ever read patient prescriptions from doctors is trying to figure out handwriting can be very challenging. So what we've identified and developed with a company called Syncrify is taking that paper-based app system that patients use and clinicians use on the ground to basically bring it into electronic formats, replicating what clinicians do on the ground into electronic format. Currently, the project is going to be hopefully going live in 19 hospital wards across the country based on an escalation protocol from, we'll say, the development of COVID and COVID escalation protocols from the RespiriSense system. So as you can see, we have two systems available. We have a WOW system or a COW system, workstation on wheels. And we have basically then also in a station that can be based at the patient's bed in single based occupancy rooms. There was a nurse station that can be available at the nurse station that can allow nurses look, the CNM or the nurse manager, look at the patients, track the patients through his or her ward. It can also allow, say, for clinicians coming to the ward to look at the patients for a ward round, patients that are under their care, and identify patients that are, we'll say, at risk. So it's taking what clinicians do on the ground, identifying their issues and developing it into electronic format, okay? So I suppose currently the key messages is that, you know, these systems with it, yeah, I was thinking that's your slide, sorry, apology. Okay, so I suppose I did have another slide available in there that currently where we are at the moment in relation to the project is we've identified, you know, work pathways with our e-health and disruptive technologies, with national medical devices within the acute hospitals division. And we're rolling out through, say, 19 hospital wards across the country, with the hope that we can look for funding and develop it to maybe hospital beds, every hospital bed across the country in relation to, you know, what it has done and what it has shown in Cavan. It has reduced error rates significantly from the paper-based, from electronic, you know, the electronic has reduced error rates significantly. It has, you know, developed a better patient care from hospitals that are using it, such as in Cavan and in Kilkenny. By talking to clinicians on the ground, I mean, they find it very helpful with their daily workload, their daily patient care perspectives and safety for the patient.
Well, brilliant, thanks, Niamh. And I'm just going to finish. Well, one of the key benefits from this, obviously, deteriorating patients get, you know, caught quicker and they can get better, but it's reducing average length of stay. With really good data from Scotland, average length of stay is reduced somewhere between 12 to 28%. And this actually translates into increased acute capacity. So if we apply digital smarts to a hospital system, we actually can add new acute capacity, and we can deliver that at 1/100th of the cost of actually a new build. It costs about €1 million to build a bed, a hospital bed, about 300K a year to operate it. But if you can put in systems in place that actually give you more capacity for free, it's an absolute no-brainer. So my final key message, the healthcare systems are unsustainable in Ireland, or unsustainable globally. We're already 2 billion overspent. There was, you know, really interesting disclosure on the front of the Sunday Business Post, an exchange between, you know, Michael McGrath and Minister Donnelly. Digital is very much the answer. We have a lot of proof points. We just need to just go and do it and scale it. We actually do need to start afresh. You know, we have the Irish Digital Health Leadership Group has been advocating that the country needs to build a digital health agency. Australia has one. We're working with them. New Zealand has one, we're working with them. The US has the ONC, we're working with them. The UK has them, we're working with them. So we just need to do this. We can leverage the best practice from international exemplars. There's some great things we can do around innovative funding, innovative structure co-funding. We very much want to shift from, you know, patient or doctor-centric to patient-centric. We've been advocating for a personal electronic health record on your phone. This is now working with Patients Know Best. It's the world's leading patient electronic health record. We can provide this for less than the price of a cup of coffee per year. We've been working with Eileen and her team, and you know, there is a putative health information exchange where we can seamlessly exchange data between Patients Know Best and Clonwilliam systems. It's taking live data, you know, from my Fitbit. So doctors today make decisions based on 17% of the data available. With what we can bring together, we can get to 60 or 70%. We had a fantastic meeting yesterday at Dublin Airport with a company called Dante Labs. They're the world leaders in genomics. We have agreed to do 2 living labs with them. Can anybody guess how many patients there are in Ireland with rare diseases? You guess? Well, it's 300,000. So I bet there's somebody in this room who has a rare disease. Can anybody guess how long it takes on average to diagnose a rare disease? Actually 10 years. But with genomics, we can do that 100x faster. It's actually a matter of weeks. So we have the opportunity, we're so far behind, but we have an opportunity to leap ahead. And companies like Dante are willing to invest in Ireland, make it a global example. We're going to leapfrog. We will stand around the stay left, shift left video from our chairman. And just the two key messages he explains very simply in 3 sentences. What is stay left, shift left? And he says, this is our strategy. The board are fully behind it, as our Department of Enterprise, Department of Transport. Do you know that healthcare worldwide contributes to 5% of greenhouse gases? It's 2 times bigger than the aviation industry. But the solutions that we're bringing forward actually are really important in terms of sustainability. They're really important as part of enterprise. We're working with Leo Clancy. Our joint goal is that our exports from digital health will go up by a factor of 10x. When I showed some of the technologies in Austria that we've been developing in Ireland, I'm almost certain that there are orders going to be coming from the Austrian healthcare system, Irish companies. And the last thing I'd say is assume responsibility. I worked with Intel. Intel was a hugely successful company, and it was just one premise. That premise was assume responsibility. If you see a problem, you take ownership, you don't walk away. And I think all of us here are assuming responsibility to actually fix our healthcare system. We're going to benefit from it, our kids, our mothers and fathers. So this is going to be a really exciting day. Without further ado, I'm going to invite John Shaw, who's the GM and CEO of Legato Health Ireland. He's also the worldwide head of AI. And I've known John for a really long time. He and I worked, we're going to announce a digital health and wellness capability maturity framework in collaboration with Maynooth University's company like Medtronic and Roche and Cisco and Huawei, and John has been a real driver. So John, welcome. And you're based in Limerick, so you don't have far to travel. I know you're going, if you don't know John, you're going to know about him after this talk. So please give John a really nice welcome.
As always.
I have a slide deck, I hope. Here. So while that's coming up, I'll give a bit of background on who we are. So Legato Ireland, we're here about a year now in Limerick, and we employ 138 people, and we create software for better healthcare. We're part of America's largest health insurance company, Elevance Health, which insures 110 million Americans. What I want to talk about is the backdrop to our strategy as a business. What is the world of 2050 all about? Where is the world going with its long-term trends on health? Thanks. I have my slides, so I don't have to ad-lib as much now. Thank you. So, as I've already kind of given you a sense of who we are. We have a very strong focus on artificial intelligence, patterns in the data. In fact, we're really a data-driven organization that happens to be in healthcare. That's one way to think of us. The 3 thoughts I'd like to leave you with after my talk are that COVID has exposed weaknesses. We're through phase 1 of COVID. Hopefully, what we see next is winter flu vaccination as opposed to another lockdown. But it has exposed weaknesses in our approach to health and well-being. Secondly, the technology already exists today to solve our issues in healthcare. But we need a framework approach in order to get things done. And that's really where our work with Martin comes in, as he's already mentioned. So with COVID, we think today is the 21st of September, 2022, but it's not, it's 2027. COVID pushed us 5 years into the future. The things that had to be done over these past 2 years, fundamentally, there was a massive acceleration in our approach to how we do business around 3 key themes: around well-being, around working from home, and also the opportunity to accelerate digitization. So many technologies that were already there were suddenly adopted in our society. Maybe not in the HSE, but certainly in our broader society. When you look at healthcare itself, we're a US-centric organization. When you look at healthcare itself, the US last year spent 20% of its GDP on healthcare. In 1960, the US spent 5% of its GDP on healthcare. And that's a trajectory heading in the wrong direction. It's simply not affordable to keep going that way. So change is needed. So I'll start by talking about the future. So 2050. So in 2050, life expectancy in Ireland will be approaching 95. Now you might say, well, I don't want to live to be 95. If you ask someone who's 94, do you want to be 95? They would say, absolutely, I do. Life's all about context and perspective. 15% of the world's population will be over 65, and only 7% will be under the age of 5 in 2050. In fact, 2 years ago, the world passed that point of inflection where there are now more people alive in the world over 65 than under 5 for the first time. You get to the end of the century, and nearly a quarter of the world's population over 65. So we move into a different model of population, but this all assumes certain things have happened along the way. In 2050, the number one cause of premature death will be drug-resistant infections. Unfortunately, that the battle with nature will continue, but in all other areas we will have conquered the problem. When you look at the mega trends for 2050, I mean, what's really happening is we're not able to just talk about healthcare with everything else staying as it was. We're in a world where there are 6 major changes happening concurrently. So whether it's energy, whether it's our broader environment, our broader economy, all these things are changing while we're trying to change healthcare. So we're not able to focus on one thing. We have to think, in macroeconomic terms as we transform healthcare, which will have been all solved by 2050. Also by 2050, the connection between diet and exercise and health will be indisputable. DNA profiling, our personal DNA will be understood, and we'll all have a unique, personal and safe and secure personal health record. We'll be taking a life cycle approach to our health. In our company, Rajiv Vernanke, who's our president of digital, he has described this future in his book, You and AI, and he's an influencer in our sector, a very significant influence in our sector that we draw a lot from his vision, his strategy, and his methods. So in terms of 2022, where are we right now? Well, we're in a world that's pre-digital. We're in a kind of a dark age when you stand from 2050 and look back. We already know what's required to live healthy until 95. We already know, but we're not doing anything about it. We know the causes of chronic disease: poor nutrition, lack of physical activity, excessive alcohol and tobacco use. We already know this, but what are we doing about it? And that's really very significant. As Martin pointed out, it's known, it's understood, it's expensive, but it's not fixed yet. In terms of cost of healthcare, not only has the US gone from 5% of GDP to 20% of GDP, devoted to health, the cost of health vis-a-vis wage inflation is about 50 times greater. So the cost of health has gone up 50 times faster than wages in the US, in a 50-year period shown here between 1960 and 2010. So again, it's not a sustainable trajectory. And everywhere, cost of healthcare is up. Most notably in the US, which is a step function ahead of everyone else when you look at the data compared to the OECD average. As I say, we're in a pre-digital world right now. We're in a world where we look at symptoms, not necessarily causes. We look at islands of data that don't connect into the full citizen. You're a knee, or you're a colonoscopy, or you're a stent, but you're not a citizen, right? So a systematic approach is missing. Islands of data, islands of automation, islands of thinking. There's huge potential, however, with things like wearables. Again, the technology already exists to do this. It just hasn't been deployed in a clinically acceptable way, but we're on the cusp of that. What's really needed is an ecosystem view. Begin with the citizen. if you put the citizen at the center with a you know, an electronic personal record, and that all the service and systems revolve around the citizen, then you start to see a way forward. And when you look at the ecosystem, in addition to the technology being in orbit around the citizen, you start to see how players in the ecosystem who are siloed can and will communicate with each other better for the benefit of the citizen. As Martin would call it, stay left, shift left, 10x. This is really about reimagining how the citizen interacts with the healthcare system. You know, treat people at home, remove the need to enter the system, diagnose earlier, better, diagnose more, diagnose simpler, faster, cheaper. It's a focus on whole life health, which resonates with our strategy in Elevance Health in Legato. And it's already been done. Your car, you switch on your car, you have 30 indicators straight away, red, amber, green, what's going on. You know, we already take a focus on whole life health with our car, but we don't do it ourselves. Future civilizations will look back in shock at how people in 2022 knew more about their car's health than their own health. What a strange civilization it was back then in those dark ages of 2022. So the need for a better way. So where these forces collide, we would talk about digital well-being. We're talking about ideas such as Dr. Sean Ennis at UCD, where he talks about digital twin, you know, that you have a virtual human, you know, real-time sense of your health, just like your car. But it's not even a new idea for the auto industry. The first people really to talk about digital twin were Boeing. The Dreamliner 777 was designed entirely digitally. No wind tunnel, no clay model, a digital design. In manufacturing, every component videoed, stamped, data recorded, all the key parameters. And a single flight of a Dreamliner across the Atlantic generates 140 gigabytes of data. That's digital twin. So the safest airlines are not accidentally the safest airlines, because they're using that capability in an environment in which there's end-to-end thinking. You know, you can't just throw a nice airplane at a lousy airline. The airlines have the ability to absorb that change. So you can see the analogy in healthcare. The enabling technology is already there, but there are many, many innovation vectors, particularly around the potential for wearables. So from a strategic point of view, you start first with why, right? So what about this for a citizen's health charter? Every citizen is healthy until 100. Why not? We know we can, with our telomeres, we know we can live to 115. You might say, I don't live to be 115. As I say, ask someone who's 114. They'd love to see their 115th birthday, right? Every citizen healthy until 100. So what I would challenge you personally with is to ask you this question. How do you plan to spend your 100th birthday? You know, in a grave, in an oxygen tent? You know, how do you plan? Do you plan to walk up Karen Tuhill that morning? Or how? What's your, do you even have a plan? Have you internalized this? You probably have a plan for your car maintenance. What's your plan for your health? So this is a world in which every citizen is proactively cared for to prevent illness. It's a world in which, in fact, infectious diseases are rare. Heart disease is rare, diabetes type 2, cancer rare. Invasive surgery, organ transplant rare. Rare not because we've no capability, rare because we've removed the need. It's a world in which physical and mental injuries are very rare. Self-drive cars, autonomous vehicles will, as they will inevitably be fully deployed, will do a huge amount to remove physical injury, maybe some mental injury as well. So the technology already exists. If that is the charter that we want, we can do that right now with wearables, with AI, with embedded sensors. We can do it right now to monitor leading indicators for cognitive systems, our digestive system, etc. We can do it now. It's not even theory, this is reality. But what's missing is a framework approach. And this is where Martin and our team are working on this concept of a digital health and well-being capability maturity framework. So where are we today on a scale of 1 to 5? Where do we need to be? We can't solve everything instantly. How do we prioritize around a set of themes? But in doing so, we can't just talk about best practice. We have to talk about next practice, because by the time we implement, it's already 2030. So you have to think now, where will we be in 2030? So we're bringing in technology that's appropriate for the future, not appropriate for today. And one way to go about that is to then say, right, where are we right now? So if you compare us to manufacturing sectors, which are way ahead, if you look at Intel on this chart, Intel would be at level 5, high digital maturity, high process maturity. Where's everybody else on that chart? In the world of manufacturing, it's competitive. So if you're not on a plan to level 5 and the other guy is, you're gone. So if you look at Dell, look how Dell has outperformed in its space, because Dell has a strategy. It's at level 5. So in healthcare terms, the competitiveness is missing, perhaps, but to the citizen can buy an airline ticket. So the citizen is mobile. So there is a competitiveness in that sense. So the advantage of a framework approach, we get faster, better decisions. We reduce waste, technical debt. We're not just building IT systems that we throw away every 3 years. We have a future sense, a roadmap for the future. And when we talk about artificial intelligence, there are about 14 different areas where technology can come in and play a role in different ways. There's a set of value propositions against each. And it's all about knowing when's the right time and what's the right technology and where do you start? Who are the early adopters? The trick with all these things, and with the Digital Academy, I see it in action. The trick is in life to follow energy. And in terms of energy, there's two kinds of people. There's energy radiators and there's energy drainers. So people are either glad when you enter the room or they're glad when you leave the room, right? So when we look at it that way, we can't solve everything, but who's up for it? Who's interested? Start there and build around that energy. So in terms of Legato, just a little bit more about ourselves. We're in business about a year. We've actually hired 138 people. We're based right beside University of Limerick. Many of our people work in a hybrid manner, work remotely in different ways. We've hired a very strong team. We come from different sectors. We come from different backgrounds. We're all excited about the potential, the huge responsibility we have to build technology for the future. We had our official opening November of last year. So we're coming up to our anniversary of our official opening this November. 138 people hired. We've people from 21 countries in our team. 65% of our team are new Irish and 35% born Irish. On gender balance, we're 50-50 at the leadership level, not quite there where we want to be across our whole organization. We're on track to we announced phased employment numbers, initially 60, 120, 200. We're on track to fill those 200. Again, we follow energy. So we've reached out to universities, research centers, business associations. Where we get energy, we follow energy, right? So we don't work with everyone on this chart, but we certainly work with those who work with us. So our next steps, we're going to keep focusing on our business plan. We're at a point now where we're beginning to look at sponsoring PhDs, working with universities on particular research trajectories of common interest. We're going to keep hiring, and you can follow us on LinkedIn. We use LinkedIn only. We don't use other digital social media platforms to tell our story. The trick with social media is learn one platform, get very good at that, stick to that. Don't try to do everything, which is our strategy there. So thank you. That's us. Thank you.
That was fantastic. And John is the vice chair for AI at the Irish Digital Health Leadership Steering Group. And just an amazing man. And we work very closely on the capability maturity framework. Our collective goal is we are going to be European leader by 2025, and we're going to be world leader by 2030. I think we can do it. So thanks so much, John. While John was talking, I actually got a text on my phone. So we have a personal electronic health record that not just takes your Fitbit data. You know, I have my MRI scans, I have my colonoscopy test, but can also store your whole genome sequencing. And this is a really exciting area. So you can store your whole genome sequencing, but the text I got actually was I signed up for an offer yesterday. Normally it costs 500 euros to get your whole genome sequence. 15 years ago, it cost $1 billion. Now it's 500, but actually right now there's a targeted offer because there was a longevity conference in Dublin. You sign up and you can get it done for 200 euros. So I signed up yesterday afternoon, and the package is, will be at my house this afternoon to get that test done. So moving on, Ireland's very lucky. We have some fantastic female presidents. So we have Linda Doyle, an engineer in Trinity, amazing. Ava Leonin has moved, she's a Finnish professor, has moved from Perth to Ireland, doing a brilliant job. I'm so pleased, it's such an honor to welcome Professor Kerstin Mey, who's the president of UL, who are really the backbone and the anchor of our transformation masters, which is actually starting to get a lot of interest worldwide. I have to call out Annette McElligott. The feedback, Annette is the program director, from the students is just outstanding. It's 7 by 24. But I have to tell you, this is about collaborative. We are collaboratively building the future. We realized quickly, I realized quickly, we needed a master's. We need to get some leaders trained quickly. So I brought together all of the academics in digital health into the move, like people like Anthony Staines. I knew when Anthony said yes, everyone would come. So I started the meeting. You might remember this, Annette. I said, okay, well, here's the modules. There's 12 modules. UCD, you do that. And Trinity, you do that. And Galway, you do that. And the back of the room, this hand went up, and I'd never met an instant. No. We're going to design this from, first principles. So I stood there for about 3 seconds. What am I going to do? So, okay, let's do that. So that day we started to design the masters, and Annette is such a phenomenal person, such a nice person. Like, normally you get, actually, when you're an academic, not everybody likes you. You're going to get some negative comments. We haven't seen one negative comment on Annette. So Annette, we owe you a huge amount of gratitude. We were hoping to actually have another announcement that Professor Kerstin Mey could make, because we've been doing some really great collaborative work with the North. We do have commitment from the NHS in the North and to the universities. They're going to join with this program, but we're not in a position to announce it today, but it's probably so significant, we're probably going to do another event. But without further ado, Professor Mey, you have the stage.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, and I will be presenting with Annette McElligott on the MSc in Digital Health Transformation. Oh, I don't have to take the mic because I'm already mic'd. Thank you. And I hope I can use that. How does it work? It's a good start. It should. That's a good start.
It just shows, you're inserting the new scan.
TV remote. Oh, that's the one. It's too many remotes, so we go straight into the genesis of the MSc in Digital Health. It was conceived in 2018 in the context of stay left, shift left, to provide a contribution through upskilling of shifting from acute care to community settings and home settings based on proactive, predictive, and preventative health care. I think we can all agree that awareness and education are the first steps to any transformation journey. And Professor Martin Curley has already alluded that he has been the lead in bringing key people in the education sector together based on identified needs by the HSE e-health and disruptive technologies unit, as it's called now, on what's needed to drive digital transformation in the sector. And the idea was to co-design, co-create, and co-deliver a new master's for clinicians with a focus on digital health transformation. And as Martin already said, Annette McElligott played a key role in leading that venture. And we are, as universities, very pleased to work together on that program, but you can perhaps also imagine the systemic challenges to create a joint masters. The systems have to work, the contributions have to be streamlined. All of that has been done. And we are really pleased to see that program having proved its value already as part of the Digital Academy, one of the 5 columns for the digital transformation of the HSE. The program aims, I've cited them here in full, are to provide an impetus towards the digital health transformation in order to build an ecosystem that can carry that by involving the patients, the providers, the payers, the policymakers, the pharmacies and pharmaceuticals. It's a collaborative knowledge sharing venture to realize the value potential of the innovative partnerships. And it really builds on core adjacent and transformational innovation in the healthcare environment, bringing a range of disciplines together in that space. And it has harnessed vital insights, for instance, health in the 21st century, the OECD studies that looked at putting data to work for stronger health systems. The program was launched in January 2020, 9 months ahead of schedule. It's an 18-month blended learning program consisting of in-house sessions and block residencies. Of course, during COVID-19, it had to shift to online delivery exclusively. And the need for that program was very evident because the first call for expression of interest received over 200 submissions. 50 started in the first cohort, so many supported by HSE scholarships. And with the learning from COVID-19, there's a potential now to have a complete online program and also go beyond the island of Ireland towards a global delivery in the future. What's specific about the program? Significant changes were implemented. Normally, a master's program consists of a final project of a 300-word dissertation that was scrapped in favor of a digital change project. And as the students on the program are professionals working in the field, it was really appropriate for them to develop digital change projects in their professional settings. And what is particularly pleasing is that out of the 21 digital change projects that were developed by the first cohort, 18 proved viable. So it's over 70% rate of viability, which is significantly higher than the average success rate for digital change projects. The program has created the first cohorts of clinical digital leadership teams that can proactively engage in the Stay Left, Shift Left initiative. It has also created a springboard for graduates in digital health transformation, has enhanced graduates' confidence and credibility in the workplace, has created new roles and supported the progression of careers of individual professionals who took the course. And it has also supported a better understanding of the policy and procedures in the sector and the institution, the communication of best practices, the development of new ideas, and also a real impetus towards innovation. And these people contribute to the change management capabilities in the individual institutions where they are working and in the sector. There's been significant feedback from the first cohorts of that program in terms of which areas could be strengthened, for instance, in design thinking, AI, data, and cybersecurity, and in person and community health. These feedbacks have been taken on board in order to develop the program further. And what is really good about the program as well, the alumni, the graduates of the program are coming together in a digital transformation alumni group. And you will hear more about that further, and have also generated new ideas for new projects for the next cohorts. So it is a really regenerative approach towards the MSc in digital health transformation. You can see here the survey that was shared with the first cohort, from which that feedback that I just referred to was gathered. So it wasn't just plucked out of the air, but substantiated by the participants. And I wanted to highlight two digital transformation case studies on impact. First of all, Lorraine Smith, who received the National Health Award, created a pivotal project for the HSE in response to COVID-19 to avoid the hospitalization of patients, and contributed towards a saving of over 12 million euros for the health system. And bear in mind that the total budget for the masters is $500,000, so it's really a value for money. And Niall Ganiti and Mendinaro Imsha were proactive to develop an interactive infrastructure map of the IT infrastructure for the HE, which proved absolutely vital when the cyber attack struck and when the system had to recover very quickly, because through that map, the HSE was able to locate any network device and could overview or could could deal with the attack pretty quickly, much quicker than it would have done without this map, and that supported the savings of lives in the HSE. And there are a few quotes here. I'm not going to read them. In fact, if you go to the Irish Independent supplement today, there are more quotes about the contributions that the MSc in digital health transformation is making. And we are really delighted that as a university consortium that UL leads, we have been able to make such an impact. And I would like to hand over to Anne McElligott, the course leader, to talk about the details of the program.
Morning, folks, or nearly afternoon, whatever. Okay, so as you see there on the left-hand side, the program is primarily open to public, private, and voluntary healthcare sector professionals. And by that, I mean it's not just people directly associated with healthcare delivery, like nurses, midwives, allied and social care professionals, doctors, registrars, and so forth. It's open to other professionals within the health sector, like managers, IT persons, and so forth. In addition to that, it's open to health sector industries. For example, the cohort that just graduated, we had somebody from Uniphar, 2 from Brennan & Co., 1 from Teva Pharmaceuticals, and another person from Dream Tech Systems. And it's interesting to see their projects and the perspective they come from. And it's interesting to get the synergies across the various professionals on the course. As you see there on the right-hand side, the course is open, participants typically do this along with a day job, along with raising a family, paying bills and so forth. So as you can appreciate, it's a challenge. And there near the back of the room is one of those graduates from 22, and I'll talk later about their projects. So along the top there, you see a timeline. So it's January 20, you start in January, year 1. Typically, you don't get to finish your Christmas. We're starting in January 23 on the 5th of January. And we work right to then until roughly around the start of May the following year. So in the first semester, as you see there are 5 core modules equivalent to a third of the program in terms of credits. And then over the summer, students start to scope out their digital health transformation projects. And it's imperative that people invest time at that stage, because all that runs along while taking 4 modules from September to Christmas. Come January, then in the second year, students are focused solely on their digital health transformation solution. So in essence, the project is a third of the program. However, other modules require you to do things that involve that. Okay, so typically we have a residential block in each of the taught semesters, and we have 5 in-house blocks. Now, the benefit of the 5 in-house blocks is that people get to visit other academic institutions participating in the particular semester. So, for example, if we have UCC, DCU, people will go and have an in-house block at each of those locations. So there's a residential block at the start of each semester. So, for example, in January 23, we start on the 5th of January, And so the Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then there will be 5 in-house blocks from February to May. One of the nice things about the summer is students scope their projects, but we also bring on board and we have a dragon style event with IPOSI, the patient advocates, and it's actually real patients who are the dragons. So which is, you know, integrating everything. And there we have semester 2 and then the project down at the end. No written examinations, all applied, assignment-based, some individual, some group-based, and so forth. If you wish to visit that website, you will see further details on the course. We're fortunate to have scholarships primarily from the HSE for full fees, but also Connected Health SkillNet will fund people from the health sector industries, and they will pay 3K of their fees. As mentioned already, it's the final projects that are the real gem of this program. So the first URL there under that heading is completed last year, and the second link there are the people who've just graduated. So I'll just mention 1 or 2 of those. Okay, without actually hoping to avoid names. I'm just going to move out here if it's okay, because the numbers, I might be able to see them back there. Projects are so varied. People are building on existing resources in some contexts. So for example, if you take the first one there, the caseload management system, we already have a primary care metrics, and I understand somebody from Ingenium is going to talk later. And this is now to facilitate getting the data to integrate it to the primary care metric system. So people are using existing resources. They're building on the health and social care data dictionary. They're building on the SNOMED CT Irish edition. And if we were ever to go to an open EHR, these would be invaluable resources. We've heard lots of mention of AI and some of the, for example, there, a learning system in elective perioperative healthcare. That project actually focused on what is the data we actually need to have that learning healthcare system, so that we can then start applying the analytics, the machine learning technologies, and so forth. So the projects are the key. Each of those there, the students, there's actually a little video there if you would like to look at any of them. Students are kind of limited to 5 minutes video just for the purposes of showcasing their project. That is not the only thing they deliver for 1/3 of the course. So it's just, you can see those. On behalf of the president and myself, we would genuinely like to thank all our wonderful colleagues across the other universities who participate in the delivery of this program, Connected Health for the funding, most especially the HSE for the funding, and how people actually engage with various organizations and divisions in the HSE to get their projects over the line. Software companies and vendors who kindly give their time and often allow people for a proof of concept, their software see the solution. Martin and his colleagues in the digital health transformation team, we couldn't do without you, and thanks very much. And last but by no means least, the graduates. You're the people that make this, and you are the ambassadors for the program into the future. And we hope that you would genuinely participate in the alumni forum or the alumni group that is going to launch on the 9th of December at the University of Limerick. That's for the first 2 cohorts, and hopefully then with time we'll progress from there. Thanks very much for your time. Okay.
That's brilliant. This is leadership in action. So it's I think we have a program that's the envy toward, and what Annette and the president didn't mention, we are exploring with several organizations to make this actually a global masters, and also with EIT Health. So we have one more speaker for the break. I have the privilege of knowing Eileen Byrne for quite a few years. Earlier in the year, we spent actually a very pleasant Saturday morning sitting in Newbridge having coffee and kicking around, hey, how can we make this healthcare system better? Eileen has a very exciting announcement today, and hopefully as we move forward from today, the way we all engage with our GPs, it's actually going to change and it's going to be better for all. So welcome, Eileen.
Good morning, everyone. I think it's morning anyway still. Great to be able to talk to you today. And as Martin said, yes, I do have something exciting to talk about today, which is a new product that we are not quite launching today in a couple of weeks called Pippo. But just before I talk to you about that, I'd just like to give you a little bit of history on Clonmilliam Health and what we do if you don't know us already. So we provide software solutions for GPs, nursing homes, pharmacies, consultants and hospitals, both primary care, secondary care, UK and Ireland. The team back in Clonmilliam Health is about 220 of us at the moment. And it's a great team and they're all very excited about Pippo as we launch. And what we aim to do is provide the digital foundation for our healthcare users that are using our systems on a daily basis and enhancing our systems to make sure we are giving the best digital solutions to those healthcare professionals that are using our systems. We'd have about 20,000 of those using our systems on a daily basis, which is fantastic. And yes, that's just a little bit of background on what we do. So today I want to kind of take things back just to kind of general practice, because that's where I want to focus on. So over the last number of years, we have been working to digitalize and enhance what we have there with our GP base. We have delivered electronic prescribing, COVID vaccines, chronic disease management, phase 1 and 2. And these have been projects we've done with the HSE and have been really, really widely received very well by our customers and our GP base. Martin mentioned earlier on that, you know, Clonmilliam Health, we have delivered everything, and, you know, in primary care, we are highly digitalized. But we wouldn't do that without the GPs being so engaged. And they are a highly engaged team of people, including their staff. So anything that we bring out, they really adapt to it very quickly and use it and use everything very, very quickly. So these are just an example of some of the things that we've delivered. Actually, just as far as this week, we have a rollout going out with enhancements to flu vaccine, ready for the flu season in October. And again, we've done that with the HSE, and it mirrors what we've done with the COVID vaccinations over the last 2 years. So what I want to talk about is what we decided to do next. So we've delivered all of that. We started to look at, well, what's the next thing that we can do here? So we started to look at sort of the very simple thing, which is appointments. Appointments into GP surgeries is around 4,500 phone calls on average a month for just phone calls. Majority of them around appointments, making appointments, changing appointments, confirming appointments. The other rest of those phone calls would be around the repeat prescriptions. They're the majority of the calls that go in. So we kind of had a look at this and said, well, what can we do with this to digitalize this for both GPs, because we want to give them greater efficiencies, but also for patients. And that's where we've come with our new product, Pippo. So Pippo is patient information portal online. It does have an extra little P, but yeah, it just sounds nice. And this will allow patients, and that's kind of an image of the app there. I did decide today not to do the live demo, because as much as you can keep cloud-based systems up 99.999% of the time, you try to do a live demo and it just goes wrong. So I said I wasn't doing that today. But yes, Pippo is it'll be a patient online portal for patients. For us, it'll be the first time that we will actually engage with patients. Up until now, it's been healthcare professionals have been our customers. Patients will come onto this, so we have to make sure this app is really, really slick for them to use. When the practices themselves, as they sign up to this, it's fully controlled on their side. So they can decide what appointments they're pushing out onto this, their opening hours, healthcare professionals and services, appointment services they want to see on this. So it's fully managed from the GP side. The patient then, to register, is very, very simple. They can download from the App Store, the app, and there's some kind of little images of it there. They're signposted along the way on this. Registration is very simple. Obviously, it's got security and privacy all built into it. And the verification process for them to match up to their practice is done very, very easy there. So you can see they get the little ticks as they go along there on those screens. Once they're registered, the first thing they'll be able to do then is go in and decide, do they want to look for a particular healthcare provider within their practice, or are they willing to see just anyone and make the appointments available? They can search by any appointments or by a specific healthcare provider. And you can see there, they can just choose the date, time. This is all driven by the configuration on the practice side. They just click next step. And again, based on configuration on the practice side, if they decide they want to take payments for appointments in advance, they can do that. If they don't, they can switch that off and that won't happen. But if they do, again, it makes that part of that process more efficient and easy for practice staff, again, to give greater efficiencies. So it's as simple as that. They'll get this little confirmation to say their appointment is made. And that's it. That's off they go. It's fully integrated into the GP systems. And yeah, we're starting our pilots of this in the next couple of weeks. So we're very excited about this, as I said. From here, Pippo then has its own roadmap, because just doing the appointments is only one piece of what we want to digitalize. The next piece is the repeat prescription. This causes another bulk of those 4,500 appointments, people ringing in for repeat prescriptions. Of the repeat prescriptions that come in, about half of them actually can be repeated digitally. It's easy enough to do. We have that process already worked through. And the other 50%, they'd be signposted to probably say they must go back into their GP and back and see their doctor to have, you know, checks done before a prescription will be repeated. But again, we can handle that process for them. From there, then we want to build out a summary care record. We will be able to push, obviously, along with the patient's consent, their medications and conditions through onto the app. So now we are kind of really empowering the patient with their healthcare summary care record. And from there, we'd like to get the referrals on there, their lab results coming through to that, and then into wearable devices. So there's lots we can do with this product once to get it up and running. But we're not trying to do everything at once. The first thing we want to do is just digitalize the appointment process, because that's what's taken up a huge amount of time for GPs at the moment. And the good news is obviously for patients, they'll download the app for free, but also for practices, this product is free for them to use. So once they configure it and set it up, they just move on and use it. So we will go into our pilots on this product in about 2 weeks, in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll launch it live in a couple of weeks' time. So very excited to be doing this today. I think it fits in what Martin is talking about with 10X. Yes, it starts off very simple with appointments, but even just that and digitalizing it is a huge step for GPs and for patients. And everybody here can use this. You know, it's a product that everyone will be able to use to make appointments, because they're not the easiest thing to do at the moment. And from there, as I said, we can build this out into a summary care record, which is what our goal is to do here. So that's it. Thank you, Martin, for inviting me along, and thanks a million.
Thank you, Eileen. Actually, this is something that's so simple, but it's actually going to change how we get healthcare, and it's going to be good for the doctor. And of course, it's free, and you heard it first here. So we normally run way over time. The good news is we're only about 15 minutes over time. So we're going to take a break. We have some fantastic speakers, coming up afterwards. I'm particularly looking forward to Ingenium. They are taking the techniques that are commonplace in manufacturing, visualization, theory of constraints, and applying it to our real black spot and our hot spot, here in Limerick, and that's really hopeful. Can I ask all the speakers just to come up here? We'll take a quick photograph, and there's teas and coffees here. So we're back in, say, 18 minutes. Okay, 18 minutes. Thank you.
Of Sláinte Care, the HSE corporate plan, and the programme of government. It's about keeping people well and out of hospital. And if you happen to need a hospital, it's about getting you home as quickly as possible. Digital technologies will allow 10 times the performance improvements and benefits. And today we will have many, many examples of improvements of orders of magnitude in terms of performance. I'm happy to see people supporting this from across that ecosystem, whether it's the Department for Enterprise and the Department for Transport, providers such as Microsoft, IPOSI, Roche, Medtronic, the IDA, Enterprise Ireland, Science Foundation Ireland, HICWA, and many, many others. And I also want to thank Professor Martin Curley and his team for pulling all of this together and for bringing all the partners we need to make a real transformation in health and care in Ireland to the table. So myself and the HSE board are right behind this initiative and want it to go as quickly as possible. Thank you very much.
HSE. BMJ best practice is what every doctor and GP has access to in Ireland, but the library took a brave decision, and this is now available to every person in Ireland. So we're the first country in the world where every citizen has free access to the best of up-to-date medical knowledge. So I would encourage you to go onto Google Play or App Store and go to BMJ best practice. It will recognize your IP address is coming from Ireland, and you'll be able to download it. And I have it, it's very useful. Just one advertisement, we did a slight change in agenda. This is a really important box. If I told you dementia was the #3 reason of death in Ireland, I don't know if you believe it, but it's absolutely true. A month or two ago, we launched the Health Elevator Living Lab. It's where you go to your pharmacy, you get a wellness test, shown from the life course here, you get a blood test, you get a peak flow test. Within a day, you get your personal electronic health record, you get a detailed medical report that's algorithm and AI assisted. And what we're finding is that 1 in 5 people actually have a high risk factor. So I can guarantee 1 in 5 of us in this room have a risk factor for chronic disease that if we detect now, we can actually help you reverse it, because chronic disease is incurable, but you actually can reverse it. We were ready to launch about a month ago. It's still being blocked by a contractor from a consulting company over his data protection concerns. I can guarantee the security, the privacy we have around the solution is at least 10x better. We have two cloud providers, AWS and Google Cloud, working together. So we're hoping really soon that will be resolved. There are some governance issues where we have really strong clinical support, and a contractor from an external organization is in a position to actually block something. That's not a good, it's not a good space. But David Van Zuydam is here. This is an amazing device technology that was developed in St. James's in the early 2000s. David's an ex-Microsoft executive. One of the most exciting things that I have discovered, I recently was really privileged. I took over the chair of Future Neuro. So I don't know if you know Future Neuro, but it is an SFI, a world-leading neurological research institute based at the RCSI. And at our first board meeting, I introduced this technology, and just the reaction was phenomenal. We'll feature David at a future event. But the device that he has, he can do a 3-second scan in your local pharmacy, and it looks at something called ocular microtremor. And the normal eye actually oscillates at around 70 hertz. But what David and his team have found actually in patients with different neurological conditions like dementia, like Alzheimer's, like Parkinson's, that number goes down. So what we will be able to do is you'll be able to go to your pharmacy in 3 seconds. You'll actually get an assessment as if there is a risk or you're already seeing a deterioration. And there's lots of things we can do for these diseases. You can't cure them, but there's lots of things you can do to delay them. So just to say, David's company, Head Diagnostics, they're going to be one of the companies that are on our first 25 watch list. I've no doubt next year they're going to be part of the graduating first 25. So entrepreneurship takes courage and vision and intellect, and David does that. So I don't know if anybody can do a trial or if you've got the MDR certification yet, but please talk to David afterwards. So security is really important. Privacy is very important. We have to be 100% secure. This is some of the most sensitive data that anybody has on the planet is patient data. We want to be the best in Europe. We want to be the best in the world. So we partner. I worked with GE for 3 years. Jack Welch was CEO, and he said, you either have to be number one into your business or we are going to liquidate you and sell you. And that happened. And actually, GE became a really good company now. You know, a lot has happened in the last 5 years. So we've been working very closely with Gareth and Deryck from Checkpoint. Deryck is going to be with us in New York next week. We're going to have some pilots and some assessments and really strengthening the certifications around. Good to see you, Emma, there. Welcome, representing Mary Day. We're going to be increasing sort of strength and certification. So as we bring these applications into being, we're pretty secure. So Deryck will talk about shifting left. He'll talk about zero trust architectures, because each of us now is becoming an endpoint on the network. Our Fitbits are going to be endpoints on our network. So it's really important we have rock solid security. What is really exciting today is our digital academy about knowledge and really generous collaboration. Deryck is going to talk about how they're making their cybersecurity academy open to all HSE employees. So without further ado, Deryck. Thank you. Please welcome Deryck.
Thanks very much, Martin. Also, thank you for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. So, as Martin said, I work for Checkpoint, so we are a security company. I've only been there 7 months. Before that, I was Scotland's national CIO for NHS Scotland. So I've actually come from more of a CIO background than a security background, and that tends to resonate when I'm doing these type talks. They're less security and actually more talking about the data and what we're trying to do. 3 main things in the agenda today, trying to keep it quite short, quite small, succinct. Talk about the cyber landscape, very important. Then talk about looking at some of these threats. And then we're starting to build up a model for shift left, what that means for security. And that should sit across everything, as Martin said, every single edge that's got to sit across. First of all, if you look at the current threat landscape, and I just pulled this off. This is from Checkpoint's half-yearly report. You can see the bit I've got circled there in pink. Healthcare has got the highest increase on attacks out of any of the verticals, any of the sectors that Checkpoint works in. So it's up just under 70%. So though it's not yet the most attacked, the increases in healthcare are bigger than anywhere else. What's the reasons for that? Quite clearly, it's a type of information, it's very sensitive, it's worth a lot in the black market as well. You can use it for things like blackmailing, phishing attacks, etc. I know GDP was mentioned this morning. I quite like this slide that I put together. This is GDP for 5 of the countries, obviously 20 trillion GDP for the United States. UK sits there just at 2 trillion. I think Ireland currently is about 500 billion at the moment. If you actually look at what's driving cybercrime and you plot into there cybercrime GDP sits around about 6 trillion. That's why you're seeing such an increase in attacks. You've got valuable data in healthcare. You've got the amount of money they can make from it in cybercrime. That's what's driving all these breaches, all these threats. That's exactly what's happening. It's commercial. They're doing it for money. They're making lots of money from doing it. And that's what we need to protect against. So moving on to top cyber threats within healthcare. Supply chain, absolutely number one. Supply chain is anything at all for you in healthcare where a service has been provided. So you get supply chain services from, for example, Microsoft. They may well do your email. They may well do your Office 365 Teams. Supply chain from Google, AWS around things like web hosting. You get supply chain from small individual providers that are providing perhaps GP systems. When I was in Scotland managing these GP systems, we had a supply chain attack that actually corrupted part of our GP network. The GPs did the right thing. They took updates. Unfortunately, these updates had been compromised. So they actually put malware onto the GP networks that we had to go and pull back out. That's what supply chain is all about. We've got a very complex supply chain in healthcare. Lots and lots of big parties, smaller parties, lots of innovation. That means there's lots of risk as well. Lots of elements, lots of people managing all that data. And the data flow as well between the supply chain as well. Data's all interconnected. It's one of the biggest risks. 82% of CIOs now saying that the board have asked them to get on top of supply chain. Ransomware. Again, a lot of people here will have dealt with ransomware. I joined the NHS just after the WannaCry attack, but we were still trying to recover from ransomware and boards asking, are we now in a good place with ransomware? Ransomware attacks up nearly 100% from 2021. 1,200 attacks per organisation per week, ransomware attacks. I talked earlier, you can see up there, £15 in the dark web for a credit card record that's been pulled off. Medical records are around about £350 because of what you can do with them. That's why healthcare's targeted so much. Average ransomware payments increased by 171%. A lot of insurance companies now not paying out for nation state ransomware. Try and actually persuade your insurance company if it's a nation state attack or if it's just a normal ransomware attack. That's very, very difficult to do. And a lot of this is coming from phishing attacks nowadays. It's coming in from emails. It's the email vector that's very, very difficult to police. People clicking on links, clicking on attachment, running things, etc. The third one I'm going to talk about, cloud services. That's the three. Cloud services, we're all pushing, we're transforming into the cloud. Transformation was the word this morning. It's absolutely correct to be the right word. However, the cloud service attacks have doubled. Cloud attacks are now bigger than attacks in private data centers. That happened just at the start of 2021. Most of this is to do with misconfigurations. That's what we're actually finding. So it's so easy to have services running in the cloud. All you need nowadays is a credit card or a corporate account. You can deploy things. It's very difficult to actually secure these applications when they're in the cloud. A lot of this has been driven by COVID. We talked about that this morning as well. The drive to hybrid working from COVID, software as a service type things. And it's also been driven by multi-cloud as well. How do you secure a multiple cloud? You're in Google, you're in Amazon, you're in Microsoft. You've also got on-premise services as well. I ran a mainframe system within the NHS in Scotland. I had to secure the mainframe the same way as I secured my cloud. It's very difficult to do. So you all know there's a secured, there's a shared responsibility model for working in the cloud. The slide looks a bit strange, some of the colouring up here. I read that myself. There's 4 columns there. The first one actually there is what we call infrastructure service, that big column right down. Infrastructure service, meaning that you've got to take full responsibility for your data. The column in light pink at the end is software as a service. That's where you actually consume a full service and that the supply chain are fully responsible for your data. Then in the middle, you've got things like platform as a service, where you actually take some of these serverless facilities. However, you look at what Gartner are saying. Gartner are actually saying by 2025, 99% of cloud security failures will be the customer's fault. Gartner are agreeing. Gartner are saying it's the misconfigurations. It's the pace of pushing things into the cloud that's the issue. And cloud will be the biggest threat vector. There's no doubt about that at all. So looking into shift left healthcare, now I'm specifically saying it's got to be protecting your everything because this is the landscape we're in. We're in a landscape now whereby we've all got, we're all in multi-cloud, we're in Azure AWS, we're in Office 365, we're in Google. We've got workloads running on these. Some of these workloads are small, what we call containerized workloads, so they don't have physical servers around them. We actually use the workloads to do things like computing data, AI, genomics. That's the sort of things that we run within these workloads. We've got IoT everywhere. That's Fitbits, that's down to your MRI scanners in the hospitals, that's down to your smart wearables, that's down to things like your sensors, pacemakers, everything is smart nowadays. All these things aren't just smart, they're interconnected, they're on our network. So they're actually sitting on our network doing things. We've got our mobile phones, Androids, Apples, then we've got our endpoints that we use, endpoints within business services or endpoints that sit out in the ward to protect as well. So we've got a huge landscape we're trying to protect. Traditional security can't do that. I can tell you what, that threat actor, just like they did this week with Uber, that threat actor will find the weak point into that network. There's no doubt about that at all. It's exactly what they'll do. So looking at the cloud in particular, clouds are complex things, particularly in the hyper scale and hyper multi-cloud. So cloud's great, you deploy at speed, that's exactly what you want. It's across all workloads. It's exactly what you want to do with cloud. You build things that's called microservices nowadays. That means you can build things much quicker. You don't need to be responsible for your data layer, for your actually operating system layer, for how you protect it, and you can configure it with uses and workloads. However, embedding security onto that is where it starts to get interesting because security has got to be end-to-end across all these different components. We need to do threat prevention around the whole security end. So if we're in multi-cloud across everything, we need to do posture management. Posture management means, what that means is that the standards that we're saying we need to be compliant with, it could be, for example, NIS directive or NIS regulations to do with critical national infrastructure, or it could be in America, some of the HIPAA regulations for healthcare. You need to actually be able to demonstrate that your workloads you've got in the cloud are safe or secure. And you need to be able to demonstrate these going on, that they'll continue to be secure. Not like a car MOT secure on day one. They've got to be secure day after day after day. And you've got to tie down the application security. That's the APIs that sit and live within the cloud as well. So this is what this means. We're looking at things like zero trust that Martin mentioned, micro-segmentation. Zero trust means that you're able to actually reduce your attack radius if you get a breach. So that means you get a breach in one system, it won't move into another system. It's exactly what we're on about. We need to do continuous compliance of the multi-cloud. So we're not just compliant when we deploy an application or when we take it, it needs to always be compliant. We need to get runtime protection. So if something happens, if a misconfiguration get pushed up, then the protection actually pushes that back. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about shift left security. It's automated, it's compliant, it runs across everything. So this is a model I'm starting to work up with the work that we're doing with HSE from Checkpoint. So it's across various things. We're talking about workloads, we're talking about pipelines, we're talking about infrastructure, we're talking about threat intelligence, we're talking about posture management that holds the whole thing together. So that's around automation and advanced protection. So quickly draw into some of these things. First of all, looking at the infrastructure piece, that's a bit most of us here understand. So that's things like your cloud that you'll actually run services in, or your physical data center. So what we're saying here is we need network security that sits across that entire infrastructure, no matter what the cloud is, or no matter if it's on premise. We need to protect that hybrid cloud is what we're trying to do. That will give us what we call north, south, east, west visibility. If any data moves anywhere on that cloud, we need to know where that data is, where it's moving, who's accessing it, what they're doing with it, who they're sharing that information with. We're in the age of sharing information. One click on Teams or SharePoint, you can share information with others. We need to understand who's doing that, what the reason is, and why we're doing it. Then look at what's called posture management. Posture management is around how mature we are, our cyber hygiene, our frameworks that we're actually using. So the posture management will help us with the governance, it will help to give assurance to the board that all the solutions we've got in place meet the standards that we're actually trying to push forward with. And then threat intelligence means that not just do we know we're compliant, but we're actually having a look in real time around what are these threats? What are the 1,200 attacks per week that are hitting us? And what are we doing about it? Are we defending them all? Or some of them actually getting the network? We've got to be able to identify, we've got to be able to remediate as quickly as we can with these attacks. Looking at when we start to do development, so as we're starting to create applications, we need to do things like code scanning. So this is developer first code. So as we're developing our code, we've actually got guardrails in place. So we cannot develop code that has got any misconfigurations or any vulnerabilities. Some of you may have heard the Log4j vulnerability. That was from last year. A lot of people actually used a shared library within their code that they created. So the code they created was actually safe code, but they actually added a vulnerability because they actually shared a library that wasn't safe. And that's exactly what this is. You need to be scanning that in real time, looking for any misconfigurations within that pipeline. So you only actually deploy things that you know are safe and compliant. And then talking about the continuous scanning, it's got to be sitting there scanning every part of your data, every part of your system has got to be scanned so you know it's compliant, it's governed, and the entire workload is correct. Moving into application workloads, this is an interesting thing because we all assume when we take services, we'll assume when we take services like software as a service that all these things are safe, they're secure, they've got privacy by design. Nowadays, it's not enough just to say the system we're taking is encrypted at rest, it's encrypted at transit, or we're in the Google Cloud. We need to be doing much more than that. We need to be getting assurance that every service we take, that service has been built to the same standards that we're developing services to ourselves. It's data, it's patient data. We need to make sure every piece of that patient data is absolutely assured. If you lose trust with the patient won't use the services. It's as simple as that. So we're looking at complete application security across everything we do so that any services that become part of this digital transformation journey are built to the same standards. When they're deployed, they're fully automated. When they're deployed, they've got the same level of protection. And that's things down to, even if we want to say, for example, create an API layer So we want somebody to access our data or two systems to share data. We need to protect these APIs to make sure that we know which systems are connecting, what are they doing, where the data is going. That's the zero trust world. The zero trust is all about we trust nothing. Every single connection, every single interaction with data, we actually configure and we actually trust at that single point. And that's what it's all about. So in summary, three things that came here to really make sure that resonates. First of all, healthcare, increasingly targeted. It's the most targeted vector that we're currently working in the moment. And it's also got the most sensitive information. Security needs to sit underpinning every part of digital transformation. That's what it needs to do. The top threats we're protecting against, supply chain, that's every one of the service providers, from cloud service providers, software service providers, GP providers. They all need to be working in the same way. It's cloud and it's ransomware protection. Ransomware like WannaCry will bring down a hospital, will bring down a business, it'll bring down the way we want to operate. And then bringing it all together, we've got to shift left across what we call every single edge that data touches. An edge could be a wearable, an edge could be a system, it could be a cloud, it could be your email, it could be your Microsoft Teams or SharePoint. Every part of that ecosystem needs the same level of protection because the attacker will find that weak link in your chain. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here today. Thank you very much. Thank you, Martin.
Thanks very much, Deryck. Wonderful. If you're interested in actually taking cybersecurity class, it's already live now on HSE Digital Transformation.ie. There's really exciting portfolio of cybersecurity solutions. I know a little bit about cybersecurity. I was with Intel. I was responsible for global corporate information security when there was the denial of service attacks in 2000. I don't know if people remember that. It was the first major cyber attack, and Charles Wang, who's CEO of Wang Laboratories, he called it an electronic Pearl Harbor. My boss, Doug Bush, the CEO, got summoned to the White House, and I actually had to write a briefing in 24 hours for him. And I learned a lot around defensive information warfare. There's a lot of bad guys out there. I've sat in 10 Downing Street with George Osborne. Some of you might remember him, who's the Chancellor himself, and Justin Ratner. And we talked about how 50% of the cyber traffic in the UK was coming from one country. We knew that because Intel owned McAfee, so we could see where all the threats were. I started as a CIO in the HSE, immediately identified a cyber threat. We did a cybersecurity assessment. We were just open as you know what. We had a cyber attack when I was CIO. And Fran Thompson and I actually don't see eye to eye all the time, but I have to give Fran credit because he managed it very well. He was the director of service and delivery, but we had to make a very important decision once we knew about it. And John Connaughton was the CEO, I was the CIO. And I realized very quickly, actually, John and I were the only people in the room that knew this could bring down the whole system. Now that subsequently happened. So I'll be honest with you, I'll tell you what my call was straight away, just pay it. Because if this spreads, it's going to take down the whole system. John was cooler. He said, I'm going to overrule you. We're actually going to fight this. And we're able to contain it. It did wipe out the whole management team for a week and a half doing it. But we got a very lucky escape. And this was an accident waiting to happen. We still have some fantastic speakers. Unfortunately, I have to leave with one. Jim McGrain is going to take over as the chair with Ryan. And now Ryan and I are going to, and mostly Ryan, are going to talk about the new Industry Futures Diploma that's launching this afternoon. So welcome, Ryan.
Sorry, 1 second. Hello, everyone. So my name is Ryan. I run the healthcare business here for Dell Technologies. So firstly, just want to say you're all very welcome and thank you for taking the time to come and join us today. It's great to do these sort of events. We don't get to do them very often anymore. So post-COVID world, great to have people back on site. I want to spend a couple of minutes just talking to you about a program and a collaboration actually that we spent, I guess, considerable amount of time a couple of years ago, starting called Digital Futures in Healthcare. This was a collaborative program that we created for I guess, a wider community to help people enable digital skills where there are gaps across the health sector and the market. And the idea here was really, we've got programs around a master's program, which we heard about earlier on. We've got, which are creating the next digital leaders. But this program is really to help drive some of the skill gaps and challenges we have around adoption of technology and new trends coming into any industry. And we see it across all industries, not specific just to healthcare, but actually some of the challenges and how do we address these challenges through education of skills, particularly people who are actually using and adopting this technology. So with Martin, we spent a number of months talking about how we can utilize some of the capabilities and the leaders and expertise we had across our joint organizations. I've been in Dell for about 20 years now. I moved into the healthcare space only a couple of years ago. And one of the big eye-openers for me was actually the amount of expertise and I guess skills that we had across our joint organizations, not just across Dell, but also across the health community. And what we wanted to try and do is bring these skills together to help enable and bring a program to a much wider audience that could talk about some of the high-level trends that are coming into technology and help people adopt, actually be part of projects and programs in line with the digital transformation team within the HSE. So we started just about 18 months ago. Our original target was to target about 100 people for this program. Within 2 days, we had 250 people registered for this program, so we knew there was going to be demand for it. After about 6 months of promoting this program, we had 1,650 people registered for the program, of which 450 of them actually went on to complete the diploma, which is certified by the Health Informatics Society of Ireland. So this was great to see. And following that success, we've actually redone this now, and we're about to launch season 2 of this, which goes out this afternoon. One of the key things that's been a real success of this program is the flexibility that we've built into it. So not only are we creating content that's very easy to digest, the typical time investment that someone needs to go through this program is probably about 1.5 hours to 2 hours per month. But we also create the content in a very unique way to make sure it's bite-sized information that people can absorb. And a lot of the people that are going through this program are not specific to any particular technology role. They may be working in an administrative role, they could be in an IT role, they could be in a medical role, they could be in a clinician. So it's a very broad program that covers a very wide, broad subject of topics. So I'll give you a quick overview. Sorry, too many systems there. So this is the program as it stands. We have 6 modules which are rolled out over the course of a 6-month period. We have an online assessment that kind of brings it all together towards the end, which is completely optional. The program introduction kicks off with a strategy program. So actually Martin is doing the opening session this afternoon, along with one of our colleagues, James Norman. And we open talking about digital strategies in healthcare. So how to implement digital strategies and what that looks like. And then we move into some of the more granular areas of technology around things like electronic health records, health information exchange. We talk about medical imaging. We get into digital pathology, connected healthcare, precision medicine, and some of the emerging trends in healthcare that are sort of moving in slowly as well around the likes of artificial intelligence and machine learning. In terms of speakers, this is kind of I guess a broad view of some of the speakers that we have included in the program. We have added a number of speakers over the course of the last 18 months, which is great. These are guys from across our own organization, but also across the health sector in Ireland. The goal of this program really is to promote this across the health system. So the ask for you guys today is really to help promote this across your own organizations and get involved. If there's anyone that you think would be interested in being a part of this program, please come and talk to us. I'm going to play you a short clip just to give you an idea of kind of how we roll this out and what it looks like. And hopefully the audio is fixed at this point. I was a little bit nervous. Colin? We still no audio. Let's join us online. We'll drop a link into the chat there with a link for registration and to the digital portal. For anyone here who's interested in being a part of the program or obviously promoting this through your own organizations, come and talk to me and I'll share that information with you shortly. Thank you very much.
So brilliant to work with Brian. Brilliant. And if Ryan Tubridy ever gets sick, Ryan is available, but only on weekends. So we've actually still got some really interesting things to go through. Brian O'Connor, people might know him. He lives in the Isle of Man. Had the privilege of spending a day with him, driving around the Isle of Man, kicking around ideas on digital health. He is the CEO of ECH Alliance and is driving an ecosystem of ecosystems. So currently 80, 90 ecosystems are actually being orchestrated from Douglas in the Isle of Man. Brian is going to be with us next week in New York. He's an incredible entrepreneur. I was sitting with him having breakfast in the Hilton in Belfast about 3 months ago, and he casually said, "Oh, by the way, do you know I built this hotel?" He's an incredible sort of entrepreneur, but he also runs a business called Connected Health. Stay left. We know, care in the home is a real challenge. We know our hospitals are full, and we have Rachel Brammer here to talk about what Connected Health are about to announce in Ireland. So welcome, Rachel.
Sorry, very loud. So we're dotted around the island of Ireland. Our headquarters in Belfast is in the north of Ireland, and our headquarters in Ireland is in Tala. Just a little bit about us in numbers. So we have 2,359 clients, 1,750 carers. We perform 5.1 million visits per year. We have 16 offices across Ireland. We have an in-house academy for our training of all of our staff. And we have contracts in all Northern Ireland trusts and the 6 CHOs in the Republic of Ireland. So it's a big operation. It's a well-oiled machine. And that gives us the freedom to bring in innovative strategies and invest in technology. So the problems that we face are probably very similar to some of the problems that you face. The aging population, which has been touched on, is set to double by 2051 for those aged over 65. Already, we're finding it extremely difficult to be able to have capacity to get people out of hospitals and care for them in their home. So this is one of the big problems that we're having, to be able to treat all of those people effectively. The next one is recruitment. It's one of the lowest rates of unemployment at the minute. So being able to entice people to come and work for you is extremely difficult. And then secondly to that, to retain them. There's lots of talk about the increased cost of living, the price of fuel. And of course, our carers, our main workforce, are out in the ground, driving, using fuel, and finding it difficult to manage at the minute. So it's a hard industry to keep so many people employed. How we tackle this within our company is our 3 T's. So we truly believe in our mission to provide the best quality of care that we can for somebody in their own home. So we ensure that everybody we employ, from carers up to the senior management team, has that mission. And within our senior management team, we're very well led from a multidisciplinary background, and that's within clinical grade nursing, physiotherapists, lawyers, and then IT infrastructure as well. And then that's very nicely coded in with our, we have a clinical governance board, and that's overseen by Professor George Crooks. So he oversees everything that we do. And then our training I touched on, we have an in-house academy. So that's for us to be able to get as many carers that we need on the ground, and we can take people who have absolutely no care experience and give them a career. So we have accredited training from no experience at all right up to level 5. And then with the integration of technology, we're providing new training courses on technology-enabled care, which is really driving us to help and recruit more people in the business, people who are more excited and want to have technology included in their day-to-day working environment. And then technology has always been a core part of our business, and our founders have been very passionate about technology because they know how to run big businesses and they know how important IT infrastructure is to be able to do that seamlessly. And then that's developed into technology-enabled care for patients to be able to treat them more effectively within their homes. So the care curve is an interesting one. So home care has been the same for around about the last 30 years. There's been very little innovation and very much changed in the whole process and how it's delivered. And we're now getting to a point where we've got so many unfulfilled care packages, we have to have new solutions to be able to lift these packages and get people home. So part of the 2.0 journey is to really come up that continuum of care, provide a better care environment and a hybrid model of care that allows us to see more patients. Where we are at the minute is hospital to home and virtual care wards. So providing a nice discharge pathway for people who come into A&E to be able to get home quickly with a package of care. And then also with virtual wards so that we have clinical grade monitoring where we can have somebody at home, but on the back end, we can have nursing and clinical doctors overseeing that data so that we can make sure somebody's safe in their home and treat them maybe in more primary care units rather than them going into A&E. And the reason for that is to stop this revolving door. So we see this all the time. Often in care, what happens is it's a panic. Let's get a care package in place, and there's been no prevention or anything put in place before an incident happens. Somebody might fall, they end up going to A&E. They are medically fit, but they're not safe enough to go home independently on their own. So they get admitted into hospital. It may take 3 days for them to get a care package, depending on where they live. It might take 3 weeks. So all the costs associated with somebody going into hospital for that amount of time while we're waiting on a care package. And then they may get a hospital-acquired infection. We don't want anyone being in hospital if they don't need to be in hospital, and we can look after them at home. So now, whenever somebody does get discharged, they may be at a lower level than what they initially went into hospital, and their percentage chance of being readmitted into hospital significantly increases. So what we want to try and do is stop people going into hospital in the first place by providing these preventative care strategies and then decreasing the rate of readmission with technology-enabled care. And just another nice reason for this, apart from providing better care for the patient, is also 25% of the highest risk patients cost us 80% of the budgets. That's massive. So if we can provide more preventative care strategies, we can have a much more cost-effective system and look after much more people. So this is a solution that we're really excited about launching in Northern Ireland within the Belfast Trust. And we're going to have an embedded discharge program with Connected Health 2.0. So there you will go have your normal triage. Once you're deemed medically fit, you will then go and see our embedded 2.0 manager. You'll then be referred straight from hospital home with a care package. And within that care package, there's a drop-down menu for technology-enabled care. And the reason for that is so that we have more data points to ensure that you're going to be safe in your home and to reduce the chance of readmission into hospital. So it's very exciting, and we're going to be launching that in November. This is our private model of care. In Northern Ireland, people aren't very used to paying for their own medical care, but they're now starting to have to because they're not getting the level of care they previously would have got. So a lot of people are looking at getting private care packages. So we developed a care configurator, and this allows you to go on and develop your own care plan. So quite often it's next of kin filling this out, and you can choose between traditional physical care, virtual care, where maybe we do a call just to check in on somebody, a well-being assessment and make sure they're safe in their home. And also technology-enabled care. So giving people a drop-down menu to be able to offer them the best technology available for somebody within their own home. Technology that we have tested and tried within the home care market, and we're happy to give to our customers. And then that's wrapped up nicely with a weekly report. So I'm a physiotherapist by background and very used to communication within the healthcare system. And within domiciliary care, there's not often that communication between the next of kin, GPs, and the whole health ecosystem. And really, really simple things like nutrition. So if the next of kin is going out to do the shop every week for a client, but they're not the ones who are managing their dinners every night, if our care is able to let us know that they don't like chicken anymore, so they're not eating their dinner, that's massive, because we can let the next of kin know that. And then they can have a better nutrition, and then their well-being drastically improves and their decline stops. So really, really simple things like communication is what we try and improve with Connected Health 2.0. So our intelligent care model and the technology that we're offering our clients at the minute, I'll just go through it with you. So the first one is our Febris Digital Observations Kit. And we choose this for the brilliant research there is on early warning scores. So people are most likely to be readmitted into hospital within the first 72 hours of discharge. So with our embedded A&E service, we're doing observations for the first 3 days so that we can keep a close eye on somebody rather than them sitting in a hospital bed with clinical grade monitoring on the back end. And this is a preventative care strategy to ensure we know somebody's baseline and we can prevent them from declining. The second piece is a medication device called YourMeds. We have tried lots of different medication management systems. And the reason for that is because medication adherence is very poor. It's one of the biggest reasons for admission into hospital in the first place. And a medication management device can improve adherence by 80%. We know how expensive medication is, so we may as well get people to take it at the right time and the right dose. And it works very similar to a blister pack, so it's not off-putting or scary for the clients or demographic. And what this allows us to do is prevent admission into hospital because they're being compliant with their medication, but allows us to use our physical capacity in a smarter way. So a lot of people get discharged with 4 medication calls a day. So that's somebody physically driving in and out of somebody's house 4 times a day just to deliver their medication. Obviously, there's an assessment criteria, but if they're suitable to have a medication management device, that could reallocate 2 of their calls a day. So we could still get them up in the morning, do all the physical care they need, set them up for the day and still do the evening call to put them to bed. But the 2 calls in the middle of the day could be reallocated to let somebody else out of hospital, and their medication can be managed by this system, which is all managed on the back end by our 2.0 team and has a response team. So we know if somebody hasn't taken their medication, we have an escalation pathway. We call the client, I see you haven't taken your medication at this time. Are you okay? Can you take it now for me? Yes, I've just seen you've taken it there. Thank you. We'll see you later on. If that doesn't happen, then we have a 2.0 response team that go out and see the client and physically give them their medication. So that doesn't always happen, but it just means we have really good oversight to see if people are taking their medication. And the last one, which there's been some talk about, is the data-driven care models. So having wearables. Ours isn't as fancy as a Fitbit, and that's also because we tested it with our demographic. And they didn't want a fancy interface that they could see much on. They just wanted something they could put on and forget about, and our Paxana bracelet does that. So what it does do is track activity and rest periods, and it has an emergency assist button, which again can go to the next of kin or the 2.0 response team. And it also has a falls detector in that as well. So if we detect a fall, there's 5 points of contact we can direct that to. And this is really interesting because we can start preventative measures. So if we see somebody is declining, we can input a preventative strategy. So maybe a reablement package in there. We're going to increase their care package and make them a bit stronger, get them back to their baseline, because we'll have established a baseline. Right now, it's hard for us to know what their baseline is. And then equally, a lot of people are discharged with a massive care package, and it's very rarely looked at or decreased. because sometimes people don't want to decrease it and then there's a fall and then they're liable for it. But if we have more data points to be able to say, actually, this person is improving and the data shows that their activity is increasing, let's decrease the care package and manage that. And that allows us to, again, reallocate physical capacity to those that need it and are waiting in hospital. And the reason we trust all of this technology is because we have our own in-house living lab. So Connected Health does invest in looking around for the best technological solutions. We test them in-house and then we pilot them with our real life clients. And that is because you can have the best technology in the world, all bells, all the whistles, but as soon as you try and get the demographic who it's going to be used on using it, if they're not going to wear it, you're not going to collect any data. And if the carers who are using it can't use this technology, then we can't collect the data. So we make sure it fits the current pathway so that it can be easily integrated. And if there's anybody out there today who has any products or software that might be useful for Connected Health, please come and talk to us today. We'd be delighted to have some partnerships. So yeah, we all know the shift left policy. We've all read it, we all understand it, and we really do see our role within this as keeping people at home. So keeping people independent, trying to re-enable people, designing innovative models of care, focusing on prevention and looking after people, just delivering better care, treating them at home and making it all patient-centered. That's our goal, and we feel it's very, very in line with everything you're doing, Martin. So that's brilliant. I just wanted to leave you with this because just so that you understand how the domiciliary care sector is at the minute. Today, as we speak, there's approximately 5,200 people waiting for home care packages. The packages are funded, but we just don't have the staff to deliver their home care. Thank you very much.
That's fantastic, Rachel. Thank you. So we have two more speakers. We're going to keep the Dell speaker to last. Scott actually has a fantastic presentation. The next company, actually, Ingenium, I mentioned earlier on, healthcare is about 30 years behind in terms of manufacturing science techniques. When I worked at Intel, there's a very famous book called Critical Chain by Goldratt, and it's about the use of theory of constraints and how do you actually focus on the machine and the factory that is the constraint. There's lots of improvements you can do in a factory and our healthcare system, but unless you're working on the rate limiter, process, you're not going to have any impact. So, I saw some data from Ingenium, and they're still in the early days working in UHL with some fantastic data that they're visualizing stuff that we couldn't have seen before by looking at the IPIMS. Unfortunately, I have to go. Thank you so much. There's so many nice people here, so many passionate people. But just to leave something with you, if when we were stuck there, the video wasn't playing, and I had to sing a song. Do you know I would have sung? Has anybody heard of the Pointer Sisters? We are family. I got all my sisters in me. You're a very good-looking lot as well. I'm so grateful that you all showed up. We're going to be in Medtronic in Galway in December for the next event. We have a big event in New York. It's been streamed to 150 countries. The United Nations General Assembly. There's a couple of people that I said I have to run, but I will meet you for coffee in about a week and a half. So Jim is going to take over as the Master of Ceremonies. But if Alan is here, Ingenium actually have a fantastic track record. I had the privilege of working with actually one of the unsung heroes in Ireland, Noel Kelly. He was the CEO of Kent's in Clonmel. And there's a brilliant story he has to write. AIB were trying to close Kent's in Clonmel, and Noel and his team pulled off the most spectacular rescue, and they had locks on the gates. And I hope he writes the book. But Noel told me, Ingenium, Alan, they're first class. They're really going to help you. So really looking forward to the results in Limerick. I'm sorry I can't stay, but I will listen back. Thanks, Alan.
Good morning, everybody. And thank you, Martin, for the invitation, and to our hosts, Dell. As an ex-alumni, it's great to be back on campus. So this morning, I want to start with, actually, it's this afternoon, but I want to start with this. imagine a smoother, faster journey for patients through a hospital environment with less stress on nursing and administration teams. The reality today is that in 2012, there was a goal set that 95% of patients should be either admitted or discharged within 6 hours of arriving within an emergency department. The reality today, unfortunately, is that that's only achieved for 60% of all patients and only 30% for those requiring admission. What are the causal factors? They are many, but 3 key areas that we're looking at as part of the platform that we're building are bed capacity, resources, and the potential delayed discharges and intersite transfers, and what has to happen to make all of those various different pieces work together. So that's where our patient flow platform comes into existence. What we want to do is to be able to provide hospital management teams, directors of nursing and ward managers with the information and the visualizations of obstructions, and provide them with performance visualizations across 4 key areas. And the first key area is understanding where are we in our operations. And that's looking at the metrics for each of the wards within a hospital and what are the baseline key performance indicators. And what we want to do is we want to put data-driven decision-making at the forefront of the conversation, so that when hospital teams are looking at what are the challenges we have, where do we need to focus our resources, that they've got a starting point. And what we've done here is being able to put together the first phase of our patient flow management system. And that's looking at the distribution of residency times in acute wards, step-down wards, and into the Model 2 hospitals, and being able to provide that level of information so that when a hospital management team can see where they have potential hotspots within the hospital, that they can go and look at, well, what are the key issues for that patient? Is it a medical reason why they're staying, or is it potentially an operational reason? What we're looking at doing then is being able to provide patient journeys and really being able to deep dive down into where is a patient moving around a hospital environment, and looking at the various different elements of the actual patient journey. And what we want to do is be able to provide directors of nursing with real-time, or as close to real-time, insights into the actual and potential obstructions in the flow of patients through the hospital, and utilizing process optimization and looking at how can we potentially speed up some of the data flow issues. One key area being patient documentation. So looking at that flow, having the patient's records available online, so that when someone needs to come and make a decision around the next step, that they have all of that information there available to them. And what we want to be able to do is shift that patient journey left and make better improvements from that. That is the basis for the Living Lab. And what the Living Lab is going to enable us to do is provide directors of nursing with a dedicated platform. Now, we're not introducing any new tools. We're not asking hospitals to introduce any new software platforms. What we're doing is connecting into the information, the patient information that's already there, and being able to provide directors of nursing with these key visualizations so that they can track the patient journeys. They know who are the key patients within an amber or within a red patient flow time within the hospital itself. Thirdly, then, we're having the ability to build up the transfer rates. So understanding from historical data how all of those transfers are happening. So where are patients coming from? Where are they going to? And being able to give the directors of nursing and the CNMs the ability to see potential ward transfers within their own environment, but also within a model too, and see what options are available to me. Instead of that back and forth communication around telephone calls, emails, waiting for answers back, giving them the visibility to be able to say, okay, we can send this patient to that location with confidence. The fourth area then is patient flux, and that's looking at the whole statistical breakdown of patients' admissions and transfer rates. So what we want to be able to do is to be able to look at the breakdown of how patients are coming into the hospital. When are they coming into the hospital? At what rates are we seeing it? As part of the Safer Patient Bundle, looking at how can we help decision-making happen at that 10 a.m. slot as outlined in that documentation. But also from a patient flux point of view, being able to have that visualization in terms of rostering and making sure that we have the right people at the right time in the right location, and really being able to give the teams that flexibility to ensure that they have the skill sets where they're actually needed. So this is a very early stage project, as Martin mentioned. We're working with the team at UL Hospitals Group to commence a living lab and look to actually build this out further into a full minimal viable product. The roadmap as we look to it is this Q4 area. That's our initial living lab and the trial. But our flow system that we envisage, we want to put into the front end of community healthcare and looking at how we can develop a platform for patients, or sorry, for the public to look at, well, what options are available to me first? So instead of me looking at automatically going into, oh, I have to go to A&D, what other options are actually available to me, and start trying to relieve some of that influx directly into the A&E. The second part of the community healthcare integration piece will be bringing in that element into the patient flow platform. So being able to provide the hospital teams with further discharge options and further care package options linked directly into the community. So instead of a hospital team saying, we're going to send the patients immediately to a Model 2 site, it'll be, well, do you know what, we have other options within the community, and start to alleviate some of that stress that is within the system. And the third phase then is providing the patient and the family with the information of upcoming appointments, consultations, rehab sessions, etc., and putting that onus on the patient and on the family to be able to say, okay, we've got these appointments coming up, and here's what here's how we divvy it out across the family, and really providing that end-to-end solution so that the front end, the community health sector, has got their options. From a public point of view, we can get that information to them. Who's my local GP, and that side of it, into patient flow within the hospital itself, giving that back end of community health, and then giving the patients and family the information they need to continue on the care. So what we are hoping to do, and the vision for our product and for the program, is 4 key areas. We want to be able to provide a smoother, faster journey for the patient. We want to try and reduce stress on hospital teams, on nursing teams throughout the hospital. Improve collaboration between the hospital sites, hospital groups, and community healthcare. And finally, I suppose the most important one is returning time to the patient. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. So the final speaker, I have Scott Andrew, the Healthcare Field Director with Dell. He's going to talk about the Dell Digital Twin.
Can you hear me okay? Oh, God, it's loud, isn't it? Thank you. You need to be as loud? I'm so sorry. Everybody needs lunch, and I'm coming between that. So we'll make this as painless as possible for all of us. Keep it short and sweet. Sorry. So hi there, good afternoon everybody. My name's Scott Andrew. I'm here today to talk about digital twins. So I've got a short agenda, 10 minutes, you can get off for lunch then. So what I'm going to talk about is digital twin and maybe the age of digital twin and when it came from. And then looking at the first uses of digital twin, analog twin. Then maybe an example which we've got in the UK in terms of how we're operating and maybe the use of digital twin. And then a local example which is working with the University of Limerick. So in terms of, okay. So in terms of digital twin, so what is it and what does it actually represent? So it's actually having a virtual representation of a physical object. So being able to look at how you process and actually merge data with actual real lifetime and real world information around how you look at decisions relevant to the world entity of being twinned. So as an example, so move to the wrong slide. Sorry, this slide is in the wrong way around. So let me start again here. So I wanted to firstly talk about the digital twin technology. So, you know, it was first referenced in 1991 with Professor David Gallanter in a book, it's called Mirror Worlds. And then it was applied in 2002 for the product and lifestyle management at the University of Michigan in 2002. And then it appeared actually in 2001 with NASA. However, NASA was using this way before 2001. So if we go back over 50 years now, 1970, Apollo 13 was a real first use of digital, maybe analog twin. So how do you solve problems with a failing physical asset, which is over 200,000 miles away, other than 3 astronauts being on the actual spaceship who couldn't even see the cause of the explosion? So behind the scenes, prior to the actual launch of Apollo 13, there was 15 simulators which were used to train the astronauts and also train the control room actually to look at any eventuality which happened in space. These simulators were essential to actually averting a disaster in both Apollo 13 and Apollo 11. So this wasn't actually digital, this was actually using analog services and people actually working on the actual simulators and actually articulating that to people in the spaceship. So there's also twins, which is actually a physical asset, which is connected to a stream of data. This wasn't a stream of data, this was using voice and actually being able to talk to people on the spaceship and being able to actually utilize that data source. So they didn't use Internet of Things, actually they're within Apollo 13. So, sorry, the slides are not ones why. Where is it? So what is digital twin? This is where we come from. So an example which we've got within healthcare in the UK, we've got population health. So across the UK, we've got the integrated care systems, which have been designed to define better outcomes for groups of individuals. So it's not just looking at a patient record, it's actually looking at patient information. So how does that patient have their own personalized data? The use of IoT, the use of wearables, and actually utilizing their own information to actually impact the improvement of care for those individuals. You then could look at the information from schooling or education, maybe looking at demographics, the age, the race, and maybe where they're located as well. Looking at seasonal data and maybe local law enforcement as well. And then looking at historical data and similar scenarios in environments. So the idea is how can you improve patient care and how improve care for the actual individual within those areas? So how you can transform the lives and the delivery of public services working together to create better patient outcomes. So we've got population healthcare, which is actually now being delivered, and actually looking at how you actually use digital twin to actually improve healthcare. So in terms of, sorry, apologies, the digital twin market, the actual size of the market currently is around £0.39 billion. By 2025 in healthcare, that'll represent $3.81 billion, not pound, apologies. So there's a huge initiative within the global healthcare, to actually formalise a digital twin initiative within their digital strategy. There'll be 25% of healthcare organisations who will utilise that within their healthcare strategy. So in terms of understanding what we're doing in terms of digital twin, we're actually working with the University of Limerick, actually looking at the molecular structure of a particular cancer and how that impacts actually the care within an individual for individual AI and digital twin. So we're looking at 5 particular types of medication which can be utilised in the care, and actually looking at the cancer situation, and then looking at AI and looking at different models of care which actually provide the information for the molecular structure of that cancer, and utilising convolutional neural networks to actually understand the relationship between the actual cancer and the actual digital twin. So we're using AI and the digital twin to actually look how we can improve that patient care and improve the patient outcomes for that individual. So we're actually currently working with the University of Limerick. My colleague, John O'Shea, was going to be here today. Instead of, I've actually come in forward today because he's actually off with COVID today. And apologies for the short presentation today. So in terms of, where we are in terms of digital twin and how we can work together, for us, it's how we can actually improve patient care, utilising digital services for the use of digital technology. So thank you.
Ryan, do you want to? Okay, so that's about it, folks. I don't know if Ryan wants to come up as well to say a few words from Dell. Just want to thank everybody for coming today. I think there was 2 of the speakers spoke. They asked about imagining the future, and I thought that was very good. It was very interesting. I really like the idea of wondering what you're going to be doing when you're 100 years old. I don't think I'll be climbing Carrauntoohil, but I was kind of thinking about it, that on the digital transformation team, actually what we do is we imagine the future. And most people here and people that are online, I think, are the same. You're all looking to imagine the future. You're all looking at healthcare. We know the problems. We know the challenges. We're facing into a horrendous winter, really, by all accounts. And we're all burnt out. We're all worn out. But it's just wonderful to see that people still have a bit of spark, a bit of ambition, and are still looking to see what the healthcare system can be and what we can change it to. So Martin often talks about driving change, and in digital transformation, we do drive change. But I think a lot of the time we facilitate change as well. So we kind of help people that have ideas. We help people that want to change, and we connect people. We connect the solution providers with where the problems are. And it's events like this and the networking that goes on beforehand and afterwards, and because of it, that really help. So I just want to thank everybody for coming, everybody that made the effort to come down here. And hopefully, as Martin said, we have another one coming in December to come along to that. It's a huge challenge transforming healthcare. We're not going to do it overnight, but I think it's really, really worth it. And it's worth all the effort we're going to put in and all the pain we're going to go, and all the people that we're going to upset, because, it's people don't like change. I don't like change, even despite the fact of where I am, and that's fine, that is. So thanks so much. I'm going to leave the last word to Ryan, I will, for Dell, and to say, again, thanks so much to Dell. I think it's stunning now, the venue you have down here. It's absolutely brilliant. And thanks for everything. And again, thanks everybody for coming and attending. Thank you.
So hold on, I'm just going to say thank you here from the technical staff. You've been wonderfully understanding, and I'm going to hand you over to Brian.
Thank you very much. So guys, just wanted to end on a very quick note, just again to echo some of the other words around. Thank you very much for your time and making the effort to come down today. Great to have everyone back on site again. If anyone has any interest in seeing what we do here and what we do in the site, this is a customer site rather than a sort of office location. So please come and have a chat to us, and we can give you a bit of a tour and talk around some of the activities we do. We do everything from proof of concepts here, technical briefings. We have a global command center here to manage parts and engineers and everything that happens in the background. We've studios, we've an innovation lab, which is really cool, where we demonstrate certain types of technology in different industry verticals. So if you do have an interest, come and have a chat to us afterwards. We're going to be kicking off Digital Futures now in about probably 25 minutes. So we've got a very small amount of time. But just wanted to thank you again for taking the time to come down, and hope to talk to you soon. Thank you.